What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you with another video, and today I have got a guest you all have been waiting to hear from. We also have someone that you're probably excited to see back on the channel, and that is Anna, that Star Wars girl, who is she's having some technical difficulties with her camera. But how are you doing, Anna?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can.
Okay. As long as that part works, we're good for now.
And from Rebel Force Radio, the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Swank. What's up, Jason?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to have you. Like I said, I've listened to you guys for a while now, and with all the stuff that's been going on lately, I figured it was only right to get you here on the channel and give you an opportunity to speak to the Geeks and Gamers community and just kind of set some of the wrongs right. And there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff that you guys are, a lot of the shade that's being thrown at you is also being thrown at us, but you guys have been around for so long. And, you guys were podcasting when it wasn't cool to talk Star Wars necessarily. There wasn't the Disney purchase. There wasn't the Force Awakens theories. And you guys were still grinding every week, talking about Star Wars, keeping Star Wars relevant. And it seems like jealousy is starting to take hold of a lot of things. So what are your general thoughts on what's going on and how are you guys doing? I know you guys left Twitter due to all of the craziness going on. Probably a good idea. Twitter only takes away from your creativity. It doesn't help it. So
yeah, that was really it. I mean, it was sort of the value proposition just wasn't there with Twitter. It was never really a platform that we fully embraced. We largely used it to promote shows as they would be released, and but over time it became this channel where we would see, gosh, look at these comments, you see what these people are saying, and it was very unique to Twitter. It wasn't stuff that we saw on Facebook a lot. It wasn't comments that would be left on podcast posts or even reviews in iTunes. It was very unique to Twitter. And over time, I'm human, and eventually it gets harder and harder to ignore, especially when these criticisms. Look, you can call me short, you can call me ugly, you can call me stupid, whatever you want to call me. But when you start throwing down, and you guys know what I'm talking about, when you start throwing down words like racist, sexist, misogynist, these kinds of terms that have the ability to not just, ruin your day, but ruin your life, ruin your career, ruin your family. This is a very, very dangerous time, and people are hurling these words around and like they're meaningless, but they actually mean quite a bit in reality. But a lot of these folks don't live in reality; they live in Twitterville.
Yeah, it is literally an echo chamber of just people that say something. They know that they're going to get their 5 or 10 or 15 likes from the same exact people, and it makes them feel good about themselves. But they don't understand that nobody outside of their little circle is listening. And it just becomes like a nuisance more than anything. And I mean, like, nobody gave a damn about Geeks and Gamers for the 5 years prior to, or I'd say probably 4 years of us having a YouTube channel. And then we started getting traction, and suddenly everybody cares about what type of content we're producing. It's like, okay, well then where were you at for the last 4 years when we were just trying and grinding and trying to get anybody to watch our stuff? We were sharing content to 500 Facebook groups, and nobody was, because it wasn't working. And suddenly now everybody has an opinion on what we do. And I'm a big believer, the market determines the market. And if people want to listen to this channel, then they have the right to listen. And if they don't, they don't. Enough people listen to our channel and make it profitable and make it to where, there's interest, and we're going to listen to that, and we're going to continue. And people just get so angry with opinions these days. It's all about opinions. You can't have an opinion unless it agrees with my opinion. Women can only have an opinion if it agrees with the narrative. As soon as a woman doesn't have an opinion that disagrees with the narrative, suddenly she's toxic too.
Or they just ignore you.
Yeah.
Right, well, you don't exist at all. Right. Yeah. Because you don't fit the mold.
Well, yeah. One of the crew, some of the crew that's, after you guys on Twitter, we posted a video on the Geeks and Gamers channel, and without them watching it, they took a screenshot of the headline, and they screenshotted it, posted it to their Twitter, and then they started talking so bad about me. Like, oh, he's such an asshole. He hates women. He's intimidated by women. And then people started going, hey guys, it's actually a woman in the video.
Right. I saw that. That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
And then all of a sudden, then it turned into, oh, well, Jeremy just likes having power over women. It's like, and this was Jesse, and everyone in the chat knows who Jesse is, and everybody knows Jesse's not listening to the damn thing I say.
No, I've watched enough of Jesse. I know no one tells Jesse what to think or say or do. I'm sure.
Same with
100% not.
And so all of the stuff that's going on, we've heard so many things about. I guess there was you guys a few years ago were removed from the podcast panel at Star Wars Celebration. Can you get into any of that? I know a lot of people are curious to get any details on that.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. So this all started at the Rogue One press conference out in LA, and I didn't go. Jimmy Mack, my podcast partner, he went out, and it was in a theater. And apparently it was very dark, and he was there in person, then brought the audio back to the show. And there were actually a couple of awkward moments. There was the one moment, his name escapes me at the time, where great character from Rogue One, Baze Malbus, the actor that played Baze, completely spoiled the fact that he gets killed in the movie, and that Chirrut got killed in the movie. We had a lot of fun with that. Poor guy, he didn't speak, great English, but he was giving it his best. And he's like, well, when he dead and we dead and everyone dead, and we just thought it was hilarious. And of course, all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, you guys are actually showing some sort of racist or stereotypical attitude towards Asians. And we're like, what? Not at all. Our hearts are going out to this guy. The poor guy, is sort of floundering there on stage. Obviously, this is his big, first big Hollywood premiere, and there was a big spoiler that was revealed in the film, and that kind of greased the wheels. And then there was this other moment where a reporter asked a question of Kathleen Kennedy that was really it was about why she hasn't made it a bigger priority to chase down and find female directors to direct these Star Wars films. And keep in mind, this is right after, they had named Rian Johnson, Gareth Edwards had Rogue One, Colin Trevorrow was working on Episode 9. It was, they named all these directors and had all these projects lined up, bang, bang, bang. And this reporter, first of all, she was obviously, I shouldn't say she. See, this is what got me into trouble the first time. The reporter Aaron, someone that we could not see. Jimmy Mack, who was there in person, could not see this person. And the reporter Aaron got up, asked this question, was very curt. I found to be very rude and disrespectful to Kathleen Kennedy. And the way that Aaron framed the question was insulting to Gareth Edwards, who was there on stage. And Kathleen Kennedy shut it down very quickly and said, it's not true. What you're saying is not true. I would love to have a female director. We're looking at all types of talent, et cetera, et cetera. And Jimmy Mack and I really took this person to task. And, I said, I called Aaron a snot-nosed little social justice warrior that was virtue signaling there on the stage. It wasn't that type of press conference. It wasn't a time for gotcha games. And her tone was disrespectful. And you're going to tell one of the most powerful women in Hollywood, how to be a strong woman in the entertainment business. And she hasn't done enough. So I really, believe me, this is the last time I'll ever defend Kathleen Kennedy because I learned my lesson. Well, turns out that Aaron does not identify as a female. Aaron identifies as male. That's my understanding. And that is something that we did not know. We couldn't possibly know that based on the information that we had. And so we got raked over the coals for that. And we were advised to apologize to Aaron. And it was something that Jimmy Mack and I thought long and hard about. And I re-listened to the audio of the podcast many times as we were debating about how to handle this, because we heard from our listeners. We heard from a lot of other Star Wars podcasters that what we did was just completely unacceptable and completely out of bounds. And when really all we were doing was defending Kathleen Kennedy, because I still believe in that moment she was correct. This reporter I thought was out of line. But I listened back to it and I thought, you know what? I'm a 30, at the time, 39, 40-year-old guy. And this is clearly a young person. Perhaps I got a little bit too personal in the way I handled that situation. So we came back on the air the next week and I said, I don't apologize for what I said. The spirit of what I said stands. But perhaps I just got a little too nasty, got a little too dirty, and it wasn't the best choice of words. Well, the other thing that I learned was never apologize, because that's what they want you to do. Mm-hmm. They want to take your words, they want to twist it into something that it wasn't intended. You try to be the nice guy, the nice girl, you apologize, and then that's when they come in for the attack. So you admit that you're, anti-trans, or that you're homophobic, or that you have hate in your heart for this person, that person, and that wasn't what it was at all. So I learned two very valuable lessons. One, never defend Kathleen Kennedy, and two, never apologize. And our hearts were, I can assure you, our hearts were in the right place. I'm a dad. I thought, okay, did I go after this person a little too personally? Yes. And so we did our best the next week to kind of make up for it. We did invite Aaron onto the show. That was another thing that we felt pretty strongly about, because the thing is, Jeremy, is that we've been doing this a long time. And I remember there was a time when you could actually have honest and spirited debate on a talk show about Star Wars. We've done it many, many times with all genders, all races, all different manners of opinion. And you could really have knockdown, drag out arguments on a podcast and still part friends and have a few laughs over it. That doesn't seem to be the case. You said earlier that people struggle with opinion. That is something that we've seen, evolve over time, where there's an you almost get the sense that there's people out there, and I don't want to make this an age thing. I'm just the cranky old guy telling kids to get off his lawn, but there does seem to be a generation that has been raised to believe that they're never wrong about anything, or that their opinion is the only opinion, that there's nobody else out there in the world that might feel differently about something. So it's a very interesting scenario, and we've been, like I said, doing this long enough that we've seen this evolution happen. Anyway, so the Aaron reporter thing at Rogue One blew up, and at the time, we still hadn't made final plans for what we were going to do at Star Wars Celebration, but they had a podcast stage, and we applied for it. We were added to the podcast stage, and all of a sudden, we got an email that said we weren't welcome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's ridiculous.
That is. Anna, did you get your so you're not going to have your cameras, and that's fine.
It says that it's hooked up. I don't know why it's not working.
Okay, well, no problem. So, and Anna, I know you haven't been a long time listener of RFR, but I kind of talked to you about
No, but I listened to their last episode on YouTube last night while I was painting.
Okay, and then
now the football player.
Oh, right, yeah, good guy.
And as a woman, were you just horrified to listen to these Neanderthals, I guess is what they
It was kind of painful to listen to the football player talk about how much he loved The Last Jedi. But even though I disagreed with almost everything that was being said about the new movies, you guys were still enjoyable to listen to.
Oh, that's kind. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I especially love that you added that little questionnaire from what is it? The show on Bravo that you talked about. I loved it that you made it the Star Wars version.
Yeah, we've been doing that. We've been doing that a long time. I don't even know if that show's still on anymore, but
Yeah, and one thing you talked about was difference of opinions and how you can't really have a debate anymore or an open discussion anymore, and that drives me crazy. I am someone that lives for debating, for arguing, for a back and forth. If you're looking forward to that, tune in, and this is my cheap Mick Foley plug, but tune in Friday nights because we're going to be watching The Force Awakens, and Jeff and Ethan are going to destroy me and roast me, and this entire community is going to roast me, and that's totally fine. Like I'm that's what's fun about having opinions is sometimes you have an opinion that's very popular and sometimes you have an opinion that's very unpopular. And there's this victimhood for people. Like if their opinion gets challenged, they claim it's because they're a woman or because of the color of their skin or because of the shoes they wear or the church they go to or the church they don't go to or whatever. They just find any reason to be victimized. And it's like, look, you can have your opinion. You guys both on RFR, both like The Last Jedi, correct?
Mm-hmm. I like a lot of, there's a lot of things I do like about it. I definitely see its flaws, and I can definitely see where people would be, extraordinarily disappointed in the film. But my biggest problem isn't the film itself. My biggest problem is how the criticism of the film has been handled through official channels. It's very disappointing because, there was a time, as I said, when you could disagree. I think about this goes back many years on the show, and we got wind of a Star Wars blogger. There was a time when StarWars.com, the official website, allowed for fans to start their own blog and do it right there on the official website. And there was a blogger that claimed that, and this is before any talk of there ever being any sequel movies, a blogger named Trisha Barr, who had written that she believed that the only way to really expand the expanded universe at the time was to just kill off Luke Skywalker once and for all in the novels. Well, I've never been a big fan of the novels or the comics. That's my thing. People that listen to the show, they know that. I've poked fun at it a lot of times, and most people take it in the spirit in which it's meant, which is just having fun. So Trisha wrote this column. We read it on the show, and I talked about how I think I called her a kook. I said, this is ridiculous. How dare she think that Luke Skywalker, this incredible legend, should be killed on such a tiny stage as these books that I don't know how many copies they sell, but certainly not enough to merit to set the stage for the death of Luke Skywalker. Well, we heard from her, and she came on the show, and we had this great debate. We had a lot of laughs. And eventually she became a regular guest on the show, and we spun her off on her own podcast called Fangirls Going Rogue. It's still going on today. It was the first, all girl Star Wars podcast. How's that for a couple of sexists and misogynists, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're only not a sexist if you get online and hashtag it and tell people every single day, even when it's even making it part of conversations that it wasn't even part of the discussion. You're like, people are talking about like, hey, did you guys go see that new Rock movie? Well, I respect women, right? I respect women. And I respect gay people and black people. And you're like, what are you talking about? Why are you so guilt ridden over trying to make people understand? Funny? Yes.
Yeah, I once a gay friend of mine once told me, he said, the guy yelling homo the loudest usually is. And right. And that always stuck with me. There's something about that. Now it's virtue signaling, and that's always stuck with me. The people that wear it on their sleeve usually have something to hide. And for me, Star Wars has always been, the beauty of Star Wars has always been its universality. I grew up in a family, all my cousins, they were older than me, and they were all girls. And the reason I'm a Star Wars fan is because of my cousins. Every birthday, every holiday we got together between, all three families, we had virtually everything that, Kenner had put out back in the 70s and 80s. And it was just, it was just magical. When we weren't role playing Star Wars characters, we were playing with the action figures, and Star Wars was never had a gender on it. Now, I did realize that it was, I think most people would agree that in its early days, you might ask the people from Kenner back in the 70s and 80s, that it was what they considered a boy's property. just like My Little Pony might be considered a girl's property, yet there's a lot of guys that like My Little Pony. My daughter watches it all the time on Netflix. I get caught in. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this one. I mean, it's just having these arguments is just, it's just so silly. So I've just never understood this whole notion that it belongs to, this group or that group.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go ahead, Anna.
Oh, I was just going to say I was actually in the exact opposite position of you where, well, aside from the fact I was younger than everyone else, but when I watched Star Wars for the first time, my brother, he is 17 years older than me, and all of my cousins are older than him. So when I watched Star Wars and just became completely obsessed with it, all of them were so excited, all my older boy cousins, because finally they got to take their old ships out of, the dust, and I got to play with them, and I was so excited. So all of my Star Wars toys are the original hand-me-downs from the 70s and 80s from my brother and my cousins, and it was great. Unfortunately, I didn't get a Princess Leia because they threw the Princess Leia to the dog and she chewed her head off. So I had to wait till I was older to get my Princess Leia. But yeah. I have every version of Han Solo. I have every version of Luke Skywalker. I have all the Darth Vaders. And of course, Darth Vader is my favorite character. So it was super exciting when I got him and I got to put him in his TIE fighter. And I actually have them hanging from my ceiling at my parents' house.
Yeah,
well,
that's awesome.
And what's interesting right now is the more they're trying to make it into a girl property or a property that relates to girls. Like, for instance, my daughter's 12. Mm-hmm. Prior to The Force Awakens, she was really excited for Star Wars, and she watched The Force Awakens. She really enjoyed it, and she really enjoyed characters like Rey and BB-8, and she doesn't care anything about Star Wars after The Last Jedi. And like I've said many times, I was trying to convince myself to love The Last Jedi when I saw it. And eventually I woke up. But my daughter was the first, before I said a word about it, she's like, Dad, that movie was terrible. I'm like, wow, really? She just didn't like it. And my daughter has no reason to say that other than the fact that she just thought it was really bad. And she was disappointed because of what didn't happen from The Force Awakens. This is a 12-year-old girl. That's your demographic, Disney. I guess she's racist and sexist. You're raising
a genius.
Yeah. No, she's racist and sexist according to Twitter, though. But, the bigger point here to me is it feels like the fandom, with what's going on with RFR, like I said, you guys, when there was no Star Wars, on a consistent basis, and it wasn't super popular, it wasn't mainstream at the time. Again, Star Wars has always been mainstream, but there was that downtime prior to the purchase of Disney and Lucas, when Disney purchased Lucasfilm, when there wasn't a whole lot going on. And as soon as we got about 5-6 months out, maybe even a year from The Force Awakens, you started seeing all of these channels and these podcasts pop up, and all of these people theorizing about, Snoke and who's Rey and what's Luke going to be? Is Darth Vader going to return? Is this going to happen? Is Jar Jar going to return? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. All these channels popped up, all these podcasts pop up. They built their following off of The Force Awakens. Again, nothing wrong with that at all. And now it seems like you guys, RFR, are being caught up in what seems to be Disney and this new wave of Disney fans trying to remove all of the old guard of Star Wars, all the old fans, all the old, podcasts, all of the people that have been around for so long, the people that had the ties to the original trilogy. Does that, am I onto something there? What do you think?
I think it's definitely true. I think.
Hang on, before you go, the DJD show. Thank you for the super chat. He says, listening to RFR since 2013. You guys rock. From the team DJD show, we thank you for your contribution to the Star Wars community.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice to hear.
Yeah, very loyal listener here of the Geeks and Gamers channel too. And Laura Ryan stole my fan fiction story. Big Patreon supporter for you guys. She says, RFR, I love Puppet Lando. Who is doing the voice?
Well, that's Jimmy Mac's real brother, my blood brother, Billy Mac. And he does the most uncanny Lando. And he's really the most naturally funny guy I've ever met in my life. He doesn't even have to try. That's awesome. He's so funny. I think you're right that there's definitely, this happens eventually. I'm a guy that I've spent my career in marketing and PR, and I know that eventually you start to market towards a different generation. You start chasing the next generation. And I think that's part of the natural cycle of things. But this seems to go a step further. I mean, it's one thing to kind of ignore the older demographic, which I can't believe I'm putting myself in there. But hey, I'm 41 years old, or I'll be 41. That's just where it is right now. There's one thing to ignore the older demographic. It's another thing to sort of belittle them and actively insult them, go out of your way to marginalize them. And I think that's what's happening. And look, the fact of the matter is that the people that are doing this online, they're being empowered and emboldened from the top. It would be very easy for Lucasfilm to rise above some of this stuff, start to pay a little bit more attention and a little bit more respect for the fans that have been with them from the beginning. But right now they're very short-sighted, but they don't have a lot of people there that still, that still belong to that original generation of fans. A lot of the folks that worked on the original films, they're no longer there. There's been a lot of changes and turnover in terms of PR. Now you've got outlets like the Star Wars show. They don't need to deal with podcasts like Rebel Force Radio anymore because they just go next door and they have their own, mouthpieces that are employees to do what they need. And that's fine. I understand. I mean, as soon as that show came on YouTube, we knew the writing was on the wall, that they weren't necessarily going to be coming to us as they had in the past. The interviews were going to get less and less. Our access to guys like, Dave Filoni was going to dwindle. I get it. But at the same time, we built up a very, very loyal base of listeners that relied on us to provide that type of content. And it certainly didn't dry up on our end, but it became clear that, they just were no longer interested.
Yeah, it seems like they are very interested in finding people that are going to push forward whatever their narrative is. And that's very disappointing. I mean, you guys have been removed from their podcasting page, correct? Now on Star Wars, it wasn't.
Oh yeah. They listed a number of. To be honest with you, and this is not just me saying this. I didn't even know that page existed. But apparently there is a page at StarWars.com where they link to fan sites and podcasts, and we were on there and. Over the last thing, I don't know if it was the Andy Gutierrez thing. You name it, whatever controversy it was, got us removed from that listing. And
I want to touch on that in just a minute with the Andy Gutierrez thing. Let me read a couple super chats real quick. It says Club Star Wars says, "Hey, two of my favorite podcasters, YouTubers in one video. Listening to you, love listening to you guys. May the force be with you." Thank you, Club Star Wars. And Laser Pants Toy Junk. I'm a loyal RFR listener and patron since the Forcecast days. This is awesome. The fans have your back, swank. So that's
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's always good to hear. And Laser Pants always has our back. I appreciate that. You've always fought the nonsense for us, and we appreciate it. And Nikki Walters, that's the associate editor for geeksandgamers.com, and she says, "I miss RFR's positivity on Twitter." That's now, Nikki, you can't say that. That goes against the narrative. You are a woman. You are a female. I know female's not allowed. We can't say female anymore. So,
oh, that's right.
From a female, you can say female.
What did she ever give? Like, what is the preferred term now? I can't keep up. I really can't.
I honestly don't know. I don't know. She blocks her and her.
As long as you don't call us ma'am, we won't get mad.
Zebulon Pike says, "Jeremy, are you wearing pants? Don't lie." Well, then no comment then. No comment. Mopar Club Cab. I've been waiting for the stream all day. Love RFR and G&G. Y'all tell it like it is. The fandom would be lost without your love and passion for Star Wars. Awesome. Thank you, Mopar Club Cab.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so Anna, what do you think about that? What do you think about this whole thing about female is offensive? What do you think about that?
I just roll my eyes because when I was in college and I lived in San Francisco, I know exactly these type of people, and they get offended over everything. But what do? They're the most insecure humans on the face of the planet. And if you say anything that puts like a tiny little hole in whatever it is that they're preaching about, they'll go crawl back into their room and they'll cry. They'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm suffering from whatever new thing that they're suffering from," and they just sulk, and then they have absolutely no way to defend themselves, and they just find another thing to pick at someone that actually has an opinion that is valid.
It's true. And someone asked in the comments, wait, if female is offensive, how can the Force be female?
Oh, got
that's a tough one for you there, Kathleen Kennedy. And look, and before anybody said,
by the way, that was one of the dumbest things. I mean,
yes.
Oh, I know.
I still can't get over that. I just.
Yeah, and I know, and look,
blows my mind.
It was part of a Nike marketing campaign.
Sure. Yeah,
but that doesn't excuse it. I've seen so many people say, "Well, that wasn't even Star." If it had nothing to do with Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy is the president of Lucasfilm.
Right.
Everything she does has to do with Star Wars. Everything, and so
yeah. It was dumb. And then, look, she could have clarified it. She could have had fun with it. She could have come back and had a different shirt on. I mean, there's so many different ways that you could have, sort of made up for that. I've got a sense of humor. I think one of the biggest problems we have as a society is that we just don't have a good sense of humor anymore. I mean, so much of the problems between races got better because of shows like All in the Family or jokes that the Rat Pack told on stage with Sammy Davis Jr.
or Married with Children.
Or Married with Children.
Yeah.
By showing the absurdity of it, you start to see how silly it is to hold these prejudices and these things. And humor had a huge part of that learning for American society throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s to get us to the point where we are now. And all of a sudden they're taking that away. Humor is such a powerful tool for us to self-examine, and it lightens the load, and it can be really, really cathartic and cleansing. And it's a shame. It's almost like it's happening by design, but I'll take my tinfoil hat off for that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like the movie Equilibrium with Christian Bale. I don't know if a lot of people have seen that. Have you seen that one, Jason?
I haven't seen that. No.
Oh man, Equilibrium is amazing, and it's about in the future everybody has to take this like sedative, and it kind of takes the emotions out of everything they do, and that's kind of what it seems like everybody's working towards. Because like Henry Cavill, Superman, the other day made the comments that said that he's scared to flirt with a woman now because of the Me Too movement. He's terrified, and then.
Stupid.
Yeah.
So stupid. What woman is going to complain because Superman is hitting on them? That should be the biggest compliment on the face of the planet. If Superman thinks that you're cool enough to hit on, just be happy and accept it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's like we're getting to this point where there's so many rules and regulations behind what you can and can't say and who you can joke and not joke with. Yep. And it's like we're all walking on eggshells now and tiptoeing around everything. And then I remember when whatever her name is that was talking about the female as an offensive term, somebody in her comments, somebody tweeted the Kathleen Kennedy picture, and they go, "Oh, okay, well the way that's said's not offensive. It's if only you use it in this way." Like, wait, okay, so wait, now there's a breakdown into how offensive it can be based on how it's used. Like, I can't keep up. This is more complicated than all the crap I dealt with in high school. You know what I mean? And so it's just it's so crazy. It makes no sense. And so. Go ahead.
If we're wrong, if the Force is female shirts. And if Carrie Hart in her interview is saying that she would love it if the story group was all females, if we're wrong, then correct us. Come out and say, you know what, that shirt was just a joke. We didn't mean anything by it. Come out and put a tweet a photo of yourself where the Force is transgender. I don't care. The Force is male.
Well, yeah, and let me
have fun with it.
Right, and I'll make this point. I don't even think. I would, and I'm going to try to speak for the majority of my community here. I don't think anybody is truly offended about the Force's female shirt. I think it's a reaction to go, if that said the Force is male, how would you guys react? we wouldn't be able to wear
I'm
a Force.
100% offended by it, because that just shows that the person that is in charge of Lucasfilm doesn't understand the Force.
Well, I guess what I'm saying,
offended by that aspect.
What I'm saying though is,
That's
I
a
guess,
great point. Yeah.
What I'm saying though is, it's just like, you can't make it, it's all of these rules and regulations you have to follow. And if somebody wants to make a statement that the Force is female, we have the right to disagree with that and to call that out. But why don't we have the right to wear a Force is male shirt if we want to? They're the ones saying it's okay to wear the shirt. And I'm saying, yeah, you can wear whatever shirt you want. You can say whatever you want. And I'm never going to be offended necessarily by anything like that. What I'll say is, can I do something in the complete opposite, but it still means the same exact thing, just in a different way? And no, you can't. You can't do that. Or could I say the Force is a white male? You know, of course you can't. And I wouldn't right. say that, but I'm saying, if I can't do that, then you shouldn't be allowed to say the Force is female. And if
double standard,
right, the double standard is what bothers me the most. What I'm saying is if everybody would be able to say whatever they wanted in today's society, then I don't really give a shit what kind of shirt people are wearing. But you've made all these rules of things we can and can't say, and certain racial demographics and gender demographics they can say this, but they can't say that, but they can say this if they're in this setting, but not in that setting. But you can't say shit because you're a white male. Oh, and you're a straight white male. Well, you definitely can't say it. But if you're gay, you can say this, but you can't say it if you're not gay. What? You know, you can't call this person a female because it's a person that had an operation. Well, how was I supposed to know that? How do I know these things? If I'm wrong, then just say, like you just said, educate me. Say, hey, by the way, I'm not a female. I'm a whatever. And okay, cool. My bad. Didn't know. And we can move on with our lives. But it's all this victim mentality.
Right. And it's gotcha games, and the deck is stacked against you, because you're a person that doesn't live in this world of identity politics. You're too busy out there having a career, making a living. I work with a lot of really strong, tough women. I've worked in the performing arts my whole life. I work with gay, straight, black, white, male, female. It doesn't matter. And when I'm sitting in a conference room with my colleagues, I'm not worried about their gender. I'm not worried about any of that stuff. We're trying to make great things happen. And, we're too busy for that to really enter the conversation at all. And
could you imagine waking up every day thinking about race and gender and what can you be offended by today?
Who has the time?
Right. Who can I victimize today? Who can I, say offended me today? What black person can I go and say was victimized? Okay, well, me as a female, what did they say that offended me? I don't have time for that. I couldn't imagine living my life like that. By the way, everybody, if you don't mind, hit that like button. We have almost 600 people watching, so thank you to everyone that's joining. Let me read a couple of super chats really quick. Moreth says, multitasking, EVS and world-class bullshitters are all live streaming right now. So we're all I knew world-class was live streaming. We were talking about it last night. He goes, dude, I already had this planned. I'm not trying to step on you. I was like, dude, it's all good, man. So they're doing the Dark Knight anniversary, and Ethan is always live. So, it's always live. So we're probably going to lose like 150 viewers now because Ethan's live. The Ginger Hitman, a group of people online bullied an actress to the point she quit a movie. The hypocrisy is strong with SJW's thoughts and say no to Pando. So a group of people online bullied an actress to the point where she quit. And they're talking about Scarlett Johansson quitting the trans movie that was coming out. I covered that a few days ago. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've actually heard that The Rock is facing criticism because apparently he has in this latest film, he has a prosthetic leg, and they did it through CGI, and people are claiming that they should have hired someone who really had a prosthetic leg.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
My Lord, I didn't hear about that.
I mean, where does this end? I mean,
did they not watch Star Wars with all the characters that have fake prosthetics?
Yeah, right. It's a Star. No, I mean, you can't.
No, SJW's never watched Star Wars until The Force Awakens. That's the first time.
They proved that. They didn't even watch The Force Awakens.
You really can't rationalize irrational thinking. You can't. It's something that that was one of the lessons I learned from the whole Twitter episode of the last several weeks, I was naive. I thought that I could go on and I could just, confront these people with cold hard facts, but you can't. They dive, they weave, they just throw memes at you. I mean, these people aren't interested in having any real substantive conversation about any of this stuff, because once you expose these ridiculous notions that they have in the light of day, everything just completely falls apart. But as you said, Jeremy, there's an echo chamber, and they're also emboldened by people from the top as well, which is really sad.
It's true. So let's talk about the Andy Gutierrez situation. That's kind of what really got this all to the point where you guys were like, all right, we're done with this. So someone tweeted a picture from Andy with her Fanboy Tears mug. I'm familiar with this Fanboy Tears mug. It's been going around for years. I like Andy Gutierrez. She's a host of the Star Wars show. I've always enjoyed her presence on Star Wars, and not say I was like a big fan. Like, I've just always thought she was cool. And so, I was tagged in that tweet. I didn't respond to it. I just never saw it really until after the fact. And then it gotten so out of hand. And so then I started seeing people say, because I was in the tweet, and then people are like, oh, Geeks and Gamers has his minions going after Andy. I'm like, What are you talking about? I didn't even respond to this tweet.
By the way, I do love the fact that, and they say this about Rebel Force Radio, we're irrelevant, we're old, nobody listens to us anymore on the one hand, but on the other hand, we apparently have control over all these mind-numbed robots that we can sick on people, by the thousands. So which is it? Either we, like same with you, right? Nobody cares about what Jeremy and Geeks and Gamers think. Nobody listens, nobody watches him. Yep. Why aren't you doing more, Jeremy? Why aren't you getting your armies of hate mongers to do something positive?
And I love being held responsible for literally every comment ever made on the internet. Like, there was a guy in his comment section that said this, and I was like, out of the 2,000 comments, I'm sorry I missed it. So they take that comment and then they brand that you're endorsing all of this behavior because somebody in your comment section, and it's like, hold the individuals responsible for their individual words. It's that simple. I keep hearing all these people claim about all this racism and this sexism in Star Wars. And every time somebody's asked for proof, they never can provide the proof. And then who? Like, oh, well, there was a guy who left a review on Rotten Tomatoes. Really? Okay, who's the guy? Well, I don't know. It was a blank account that didn't have an avatar. So it's basically a faceless, nameless person. So it literally could have been anybody. There are plenty of situations out there where people have gotten fake bots to make racist claims just so they can take that comment and create a narrative around it. I'm not saying that always happens. I'm not saying there aren't racist people in the world and sexist people in the world. There are. But they're so irrelevant, they don't matter. And
they're also, Jeremy, the other thing is they're also not known for their subtlety.
That's
right.
True.
People that march down the street wearing white sheets and with burning crosses. These are not subtle people. People that are just complete, unadulterated racists and nasty people full of prejudice. They put it out there, right? They're not hiding behind podcasts. It's
true. And they're also not strategic or smart enough to do a lot of the stuff that they're being accused of doing. Like these racist people that have such a narrow-minded worldview, these shill sites are giving them way too much credit. It's like you would think they were Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible. Like you would think they were that talented and skilled. And it's like, no, they're not. They're literally just a group of people that nobody listens to. They have no power. They have no influence in the industry. They have no real voice and they have no real following. Yet all we hear about is how big and loud their following is. And it's crazy. So anyway, Andy Gutierrez. So let's talk about that. Give us your side of this situation.
It was very, very simple. So this was on the heels of, Rebel Force Radio receiving lots and lots of attacks. I was trying to enjoy a vacation with my family, and I was dumb enough to leave Twitter on my phone. And I'll be honest with you, Twitter is kind of like a big hate orgy That's really what it is. And at first, you know, it kind of feels good, and then all of a sudden you start feeling really gross and icky. And that's how my experience with Twitter was. And I realized, like, this is not leading to anywhere good. I'm not enjoying my experience here. But I woke up one day and I noticed that someone had retweeted this photo of Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, where she had behind her, she was in an office somewhere, and behind her was this mug that said "Fanboys Tears." And a bunch of people started attacking this person, saying, "This proves nothing. You're crazy. Oh, she can't be held accountable just because she has a mug, you know, behind her it's in some office. She might even not know that mug is there." And I'm like, does anyone have a memory at all? This photo and multiple versions of it had been floating around forever. So without comment, without anything, I just went on Google. I'm like, Andy Gutierrez, fanboy tears. Boom. The first image that showed up, I tweeted it. The one of her sipping from the fanboy tears.
Like, said nothing. You know, I remember. I saw that. You said nothing.
I said nothing. It was just a response to this idea that all it was a mug that was, you know, on a shelf behind her. It was more than that. And so I was just sort of putting this out there like, no, you know, hey guys, she actually did kind of, you know, mug with the mug in the camera and did it multiple times. And then all of a sudden I was accused, Rebel Force Radio was accused of sicking our attack dogs on poor innocent Andy Gutierrez.
You don't have, right? That following you don't have?
Right. Nobody listens to us. Yeah, we did. I never in a million years, I would never suggest that people waste their time going after someone on Twitter. That's ridiculous. But again, you know, one of the things that led up to leaving Twitter was I realized that something as innocent as retweeting a photo that had already been tweeted by this, I think I was even accused of doxing her because her handle was in the image. I mean, this was a public post. I don't know if it was Instagram or Twitter or what it was. Somebody didn't sneak in the dead of night and snap a picture of this, you know, this girl in her home. This was something that she put out there. And so the fact that I'm just repeating it, you know, was you know, apparently some big hate crime. But I never suggested anybody go after her. I don't want anyone going after anybody. But if we're going to have a real discussion about, you know, stupid PR moves, you know, I'm going to throw that in there. That was bad. That was dumb. That was dumb of an employee of a company whose job it is to support those that are out evangelizing the product. You know, to paint, you know, I remember a time when fanboy was a good term. You know, there was a movie by my friend Kyle Newman called Fanboys, and it was about celebrating people who love Star Wars, maybe poke a little fun here and there, but having a good time doing it. And now you're going to sip from a Fanboy's Tears mug? I mean, get real.
Great movie, by the way. Great movie.
It was. I loved it.
All right. Jason Wells says, when do we get to the G.I. Joe? I mean, I'm always game to talk about G.I. Joe, but I don't know if you're just asking when are we going to talk about G.I. Joe, but
let's talk about G.I. Joe. I'll tell you, I went into a discount grocery store this is probably about 10 years ago. And there was this random end cap. It was a basket that had nothing but a bunch of bagged hooded Cobra Commander figures. Dude, they were 99 cents a piece. I'm not kidding you. So I picked up a couple of, this is 10 years ago. So what would that have been? You know,
oh my
2000, 2008 or whatever. So
that's like, and depending on which one it was, because there was a few remakes, but if it was like the 1984, that's a massive score. But yeah,
there's my G.I. Joe contribution.
That's a great contribution to the G.I. Joe discussion. I'm very jealous right now. This is why I always go to thrift stores and pawn shops. Walmart's cool, but Walmart's is too streamlined for me now. I love going into thrift stores and that stuff because you never know what you're going to find. It's great. So, all right, reviews for you. It says the Force's female shirts were made up by Nike to promote Nike's female shoe called the Force. The problem is she actually wants to be. Yeah, and no, in reviews for you, we had him on last week. Craig's good guy, good people. He's got a lot of inside information over at Lucasfilm, and so and I see you telling me that I'm missing super chats. I'm not necessarily missing super chats. I'm just trying not to interrupt the flow of conversation. But Craig, we will have Craig on again in the very near future. So all right, Laser Pants Toy Junk, just saying, why did you leave the URGR group, the Trolls? I'm assuming that's for you. The URGR group.
Oh yeah, so there was an unofficial Rebel Force Radio group page on Facebook, and I just needed to step away from it. It's not that I won't go back, but these are people that get together to talk about the show, Rebel Force Radio, and we put out a new episode, and they talk and they have great conversations. But it also got very negative, and I had enough, quite frankly. I just you can only take so much of that, and you can only get on and defend yourself so many times. And I'm not saying I won't jump back on, but I had my fill.
Are you guys having some connection issues with Jay? It looks like, Jason, you're kind of having some connection. You're fine though. We heard everything. Really? You're just you're just getting a little underwater looking, but your audio is fine. So
okay,
but I don't know
about that. I'm going to go ahead and pause some of this. I like to pause Dropbox and some of these other apps that are hanging out in the background. Sorry about that.
No problem. And then Jason Wells, gosh, trolling Jeremy is no fun sometimes. Sometimes I catch it, sometimes I don't. I got destroyed the other day on a live stream, and I'm not repeating what was said. They're going to start saying it in the comments, and I'm not going to repeat it, because if so, the Geeks and Gamers may never exist after that. So because they put these, I'll tell you both after we close the show, but I'm not repeating it on air again. But you'll start seeing it in the comments. It's a certain name with a last name that they put together, and they wanted me to give a shout out to their buddy with this first and last name. And
did you fall for one of those?
Oh yeah, the worst one of all. So
are you Mo from The Simpsons?
I guess
you're
so,
falling
man.
for this.
But I'd never heard this one either. And then I looked, and apparently PewDiePie got busted on it too. So that was pretty funny. But anyway, all right. So what is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is, what is the future of RFR looking like? Are you guys going to just keep your heads down and keep doing what you do? Do you have any plans to kind of open the platforms up that you're on? What does the future look like, at least in the near future?
I think that we're just going to keep doing what we've always done, and we've been doing it for 12 years. We're going to continue to come back each and every week and offer our opinions, our analysis, our take on everything and all things Star Wars, both in universe, outside of universe. All opinions are welcome. It's just, I grew up listening to talk radio. I'm a huge fan of talk radio, from Howard Stern to Rush Limbaugh to local folks that I listened to growing up in Northeast Ohio. And I always dreamed of bringing that kind of spirit to Star Wars. I was never a sports guy. I was never a jock, but I always admired the fact that, you could have whole shows devoted to sports talk or political talk. And I thought it would just be so fun to do that with Star Wars. And that's what we've done. And I'm so blessed to have been able to cross paths with Jimmy Mack, who's a 30+ year radio veteran. And I love YouTube. I love, the opportunities that it offers, but, we're going to do what we do best, which is to have, essentially a radio talk show online. And I got to tell you, I mean, our numbers, our downloads, they've never been better. And so that says a lot. And we're hearing a lot from listeners who, it's very interesting. After the big blow up with the Rogue One premiere, we heard from a few listeners that said, you know what, I'm done with you guys. I can't go along for this ride. I can't believe you did this to this poor person. And now, fast forward a couple years later, they're coming back and they're saying, you know what? I can't relate to these people anymore. I see now finally what you guys were going through. These people are nuts, and they're coming back. And I mean, I could show you the emails, and I'm typing back to them, welcome home, welcome home. You're always welcome back here. It takes a big person to admit you were wrong. And we're seeing a lot of that because it's just become so unhinged. Just not just in Star Wars, everywhere.
It is. Everything's politicized at this point, and
Everything's politicized.
It's so amazingly frustrating. But now my question is, now how do you feel about Star Wars? How did you feel before The Force Awakens? Let's back up. How did you feel about the Disney purchase of Lucasfilm as a longtime Star Wars podcaster? And I know because I listened to your shows back then. But how did you feel about that? How did you feel about The Force Awakens? How did you feel about going into The Last Jedi, and how do you feel about it now where we're at? So just kind of give us a quick run of that.
Well, gosh, going into the acquisition, I remember I got the text, several texts. My phone blew up the day that was announced, and we knew we needed to rush and get a show out. We were very optimistic, but I would say cautiously so. I think like most Star Wars fans, we kept looking to what was going on with Marvel. We realized that there was a track record of success, that there was, for lack of a better words, a formula. There was a system in place. But it kind of turns out that, the machine wasn't quite as well-oiled as, the Star Wars machine was not quite as well-oiled as the Marvel machine. Going into The Force Awakens and coming out of The Force Awakens, blown away. I loved it. I still have great affinity for that movie. I thought that it set things up beautifully. Going into Last Jedi, coming out of Last Jedi, I thought in many ways it was a beautifully made movie. My point was, look, if you bought the premise, if you bought Rian Johnson's premise about who Luke Skywalker is, and let's remember that was supposedly, that was the urban legend. That was how Kathleen Kennedy brought JJ Abrams, who had already said no to directing The Force Awakens. She brought him in by saying, JJ, we need you to answer the question, who is Luke Skywalker? Well, ironically enough, it wasn't JJ that answered that. It was Rian Johnson. But if you buy Ryan's premise, he does execute the movie, I feel, very well. But if you don't buy the premise, the whole thing falls apart. It all hinges around Luke Skywalker. And, not paying off one or two of the plot points would be forgivable, but blowing off nearly all of them does seem lazy. I don't necessarily think that Rian Johnson is a terrible film director or a terrible storyteller. I think the whole production schedule was overly ambitious. I think the films were rushed. There's no excuse to start writing a sequel to a movie as complex as a chapter in a Star Wars series when the one that precedes it is still in front of cameras. I thought that it was just ham-fisted, and they're kind of dealing with it now. So I don't necessarily want to assign malice where there is none. But it does, it makes me scratch my head. It really does.
Now, how do you feel about the future? Do you think that Episode 9 is going to continue on whatever path they initially wanted Episode 9 to go on? Or do you think that they're going to react to the criticisms and try to retroactively fix a lot of the things that The Last Jedi did?
My understanding is that Bob Iger at Disney is a big fan of JJ Abrams. Kathleen Kennedy is not. My understanding is that JJ Abrams was originally intended to be the chief architect of the entire sequel trilogy, but that there arose major conflicts between the Bad Robot crew and the Lucasfilm crew. I think some PP match stuff going on. And I think JJ walked away, quite honestly. And I think it was mutual. I don't think Kathleen Kennedy was any more excited to continue working with JJ than JJ was Kathleen Kennedy. I don't have that 100% confirmed. It's just rumors and hearsay that I've been privy to. But I think it makes a good deal of sense. I think Bob Iger is a grown-up. He's an adult. He's a businessman. He understands what's at stake here. And I kind of the analogy I like to give is that I feel like the Lucasfilm crew are a bunch of kids like in that 70s show smoking doobies down the basement. And Bob Iger is Red Foreman, and he comes in and he opens the door to the basement, and turns the light on and says, "What the hell are you all doing down there? What's going on down there?" And that's what I keep waiting for is a grown-up with some common sense to come in and knock some sense into people. I think that if anybody can make this work, it's JJ Abrams. I don't think he's perfect, but I do think that he's an amazing talent. I think that he has incredible reverence for Star Wars. I also think he's more along the lines of a Dave Filoni who has respect for Star Wars fans. I don't think that's necessarily the case about Rian Johnson. I think Rian Johnson falls into the category of fans that like the Star Wars that they would like Star Wars to be, the ones that want to remake it in their own image and likeness rather than having a lot of respect for the legacy. I think JJ respects the legacy. So I have high hopes. I've gone into every one of these movies with high hopes. I thought outside of L3 that Solo was a really enjoyable movie. I thought Alden Ehrenreich did a great job. I thought that Daniel Glover did a great job breathing life into Lando. There was some weird stuff they had him do. I thought, the whole deal with the droid was really bizarre. It kind of tainted the film, but there was also a lot to like. I thought Emilia Clarke was great. So I can't say that it's been all terrible. That's just my opinion. But I think they've made some really colossal, ham-fisted, stupid, and easily avoidable mistakes.
It's very true. We'll so let me, Anna, I'm gonna let you jump in here in just a minute. It's hard because I don't see you, and I don't, I'm just like.
I know. I tried fixing it.
That's all right. We do get to see your awesome ass face paint though, because it is.
Thanks.
Very cool. All right. So Trip D says, does anything change for RFR's content with a significant portion of the Star Wars fan base sitting out movies and less interested in new Star Wars news? So with everything going on, anything change as far as your content goes?
No, as a matter of fact, I think it actually helps in some ways. Rebel Force Radio, we have never been one of those podcasts that gets so down in the weeds that unless you have some sort of encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars, that you're kind of left out in the cold. What we really love is that there's incredible diversity in the folks that listen to RFR, from people that have never missed a Star Wars celebration to people who have never been to a Star Wars celebration. They just like the original movies and they listen to us to kind of keep up on what's going on. So the fact that, people are sitting out, I think once a Star Wars fan, always a Star Wars fan. So I think those people continue to tune into Rebel Force Radio and hopefully we can inspire them to, go check out the next movie. So,
yeah, and I mean, and I didn't go see Solo, but I'm still just as much as interested in Star Wars news than ever before, only because it's almost like watching a train wreck at this point. We have 650 people watching. Hit that like button. What is it now? Lick the like button, smash the like button, like the smash button, whatever it is you guys have come up with now. There's all types of different scenarios for that. So, all right, Anna, do you have anything?
Well, I have to say I do disagree with a lot of what was said, but I respect your opinion on it. The thing with JJ is I feel that he understands this because it's what he's grown up and it's what he loved. But the way that he does things, I don't agree with. I had a big problem with the way he handled Star Trek. I did like the first one. The second one got me really mad because the original Rathacon, when Spock dies, that just gets you in the feels. And I didn't have that same feeling with where they did it with Kirk. I did like the fact that they had Spock fight Khan, but at the same time, one of the main things that they had with Khan, in the original Space Seed episode was the girl that falls in love with him. She's like, oh, he's a Sikh, he's an amazing fighter. What do? They get the most white actor on the face of the planet. And I love Benjamin Cumberbatch. I think he's amazing. But if you're going to do that, stay true to the original character. It could have been one of Khan's right-hand men, and then that could have led into another movie. If, we got this dude from Botany Bay, but there's another one, which is Khan, leading up to another movie. So that had me kind of on the fence when, the whole Force Awakens thing. And then I think Mark Hamill had a perfect example of what was just wrong right off the bat with the Force Awakens, was that JJ's the one that came up with the original plot for it. And, he had the script set up for the next couple. And he had this amazing opportunity to reunite Han, Luke, and Leia. And he threw that away. So right there, I don't think he has the respect that he should have for something that he claims to love so much.
Yeah. Well, see now, and everybody knows I'm a big JJ fan, and I enjoyed The Force Awakens, and we're all going to hear about this Friday night. No need to get into all that right now. But my thing on The Force Awakens, retroactively, I'm having a lot of problems with The Force Awakens, but that still doesn't hurt the movie in isolation for me. But it's now with The Last Jedi, I don't care about The Force Awakens. I don't want to watch it anymore. And I trusted the creative process. I obviously wanted to see Han, Luke, and Leia together, in The Force Awakens. And they decided not to go that route. And, I trusted that they had a plan, and clearly they didn't have a plan. And now it bothers me. And so anyway, you had something you wanted to add, Jason.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's the biggest crime in all of this, was a lack of plan, an overly ambitious production schedule. And I remember when we were all debating after The Force Awakens, who is Rey, who is Rey's parents, all of that was going on. And that was another one where I had on good authority that not even JJ Abrams knew who, or Lawrence Kasdan knew who Rey's parents were.
Makes me think of Lost, what they did with Lost.
Exactly. And Anna, I want to say that I want to back up what you were saying about JJ, because when the announcement was made that JJ was going to helm episode 7, a good friend of mine who was a big Lost fan, he emailed me right away, and he's not a Star Wars fan. He goes, so JJ's going to ruin Star Wars next, huh? And he goes, JJ is a really creative guy. He's a great starter, but he's the worst finisher. And now, his words really haunt me.
Well, now, as a JJ fan and a Lost fan, I have to say he didn't have anything to do with anything with Lost after it got off the ground. Like, he had nothing. That was all. What's his name? Everybody's gonna tell me in the chat. The guy that wrote it, Damon Lindelof. That was Lindelof. Mm. And they've admitted that the show went on way longer than they anticipated, and they just kind of made it up as they went. But I still loved all of it. But JJ had little to nothing to do with Lost after it was off the ground, and then he, from a creative sense, I think he was involved from season 1, and after that it was no more. All right, so let me get here. I got a couple of more super chats to get to. Scott Wilson says, born and raised in Mentor, Ohio. Go Northeast Ohio.
All right, Mentor.
Mentor. Okay. Yeah. Jason Wells, Jeremy, here is two of the monies. That's it, Jason? Are you come on, man? What the hell? I'm kidding. Obviously, I'm kidding. Zebulon Pike says intellectual diversity is the only true diversity. I agree with you on that.
Amen. Amen on that.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Raymond Review says, hey, big fan. You guys, along with World Class BS and Maulers, inspired me to make my critique of The Last Jedi. Worked hard on it, and I hope you check it out. Nolan should direct a live action Under the Red Hood. Under the Red Hood is my favorite DC animated movie. And obviously I love Nolan, and yeah, I mean, he should. I doubt you'll ever see Nolan go back to comic book films or DC or anything like that, but I would love to see that. And Raymond Reviews, everybody go check out Raymond Reviews. Check out his YouTube channel. And he has a critique of The Last Jedi. So everybody go by, check it out, drop him a like and a comment, and support everyone in our community. You know, that's how we do it. Mega Jetty 1 says, that Star Wars girl and Geeks and Gamers for Star Wars Story Group. That'll never happen, only because they would never allow it. So, Anna's a female that doesn't agree with their narrative, so she doesn't count.
So technically, I don't exist.
Yeah, you don't exist. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, what? Who? No, I was just going to say, you know what? I'm a big fan of No Story Group.
Yeah.
That was one particular announcement that was made, and I think that was around the time that they said that they were relegating all expanded universe into Legends, and that this story group was going to continue to help the creative forces mine this great backlog of canon and characters, and bring them forward and all of that. I just think that creating Star Wars, and again, something as intricate as these movies have become, with all of the mythology that's entailed, to give that over to some sort of committee, it doesn't make any sense at all. And I know that people want to create this sort of equivalency and say, well, George Lucas sort of made it up as he went along, and that's absolutely true. But it was one person. It was coming out of one consciousness, one mind. Very, very different than this sort of pass the baton way that they've been doing.
What is the story group doing? Because they obviously didn't do anything to help The Force Awakens transition into the Last Jedi. Like, what are they doing? What exactly are they doing? But I don't like the idea. I don't like the idea of a story group, especially
they're on Twitter. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, they're hashtagging on Twitter. But I don't like the idea of it too. So we definitely agree on that. So Ben Abu Saad said, fan since 2006, looking back over 2 years, would you do anything differently with regards to the folks who created the controversy?
When I do
time?
Yeah.
Okay. Please. So looking back 2 years, would you do anything differently with regards to folks who created controversy?
Would I do anything differently? I this is going to sound terrible, but I think that I would not have apologized, because I think that was a moment when I took people for their word and thought that it was the right thing to do, but I think it turned out to be the wrong thing to do, because it really just, it was like walking into a bear trap is really what it was. I think my thoughts spoke for itself, and I very easily could have come on and just said, yeah, well, maybe I was a little too hot under the collar last week. That's what happens when you run a hot mic on, a couple hours a week over a course of 12 years. Sometimes that happens. Yeah, that was a mistake. That was a mistake, because it was really just walking into a trap.
That's a good thing to regret, because like you said earlier, you can't apologize to these people because that's what they want. And they weaponize everything. They try to weaponize everything. Anna's getting a lot of love in the comments, as she should. And she's responding to you guys. And at some point we're gonna have to get you on the High Council. Everybody keeps asking me about it. So, all right, let me see here. Let me catch up. All right, so Trip D says Star Wars Oxygen was an amazing RFR podcast. I understand if Jason can't answer this, but did David Collins leave Oxygen because of the controversy?
I can't speak for David Collins, but my understanding is that that probably played into it. And David Collins keeps a professional relationship with Lucasfilm, and obviously that's his right and his privilege to do so. But I think he did start to see his affiliation with Rebel Force Radio as a liability, which is really sad.
Okay. And just so you know, before we went live, Jason told me, he's like, there's nothing off the table, man. Ask me whatever, and so that's just the type of guy he is. And so Jake Stryker says, listen since the force.net, the old school days. Keep it up, Jason and Jimmy Mack. So you got an old school listener there. Zebulon says, your thoughts on Thrawn? Only good decision lately. Don't know if he's speaking on Rebels or the Thrawn novels. Probably the novels. A lot of people didn't like what happened in Rebels with Thrawn. I was fine with it, but what are your thoughts on Thrawn?
I thought Thrawn was executed really well in Rebels. I loved the voice actor. I thought that he was I think he embodied everything that I'd always read between the lines when I read the original Thrawn trilogy back in the 90s. My problem with Thrawn in Rebels was that he was always that villain that was losing and then, claiming that it was all proceeding according to his plan. So it started to get a little bit ridiculous. He just suffered loss after loss after loss after loss. So he kind of became ineffective. And I guess I understand why they went that route, because Dave Filoni, you talk about somebody who really does respect legacy characters. He was always very reluctant, and would tell us many times he was always very reluctant to introduce legacy characters into the animated films, because you don't want them to become caricatures of themselves. You don't want them to become so commonplace. And when it came to Vader in Rebels, he said you couldn't have Vader losing every week on Rebels and going out and shaking his fist to the sky, I'll get you next time, Rebels, because then by the time you see him in the films, he's completely neutered and not the big powerful scary bad guy that he is. So they needed to create that recurring villain that could be a step or two down. I thought Thrawn was a great choice. Over time, it sort of became a little bit comical and funny enough, kind of stepped into that same trap that Dave was talking about that he was avoiding with Vader.
And I'm going to ask you more on Filoni here a little bit later. Anna, what did you think about Thrawn in Rebels, and have you read the novels?
Guys,
I don't read the novels.
I haven't finished Rebels. You've been ruining it for me sometimes when I watch a live stream.
You haven't? Where are you
Here's
at
the
on
thing,
Rebels?
I can't stand when shows end, and it makes me really sad, and I'm still trying to get over the ending of Avatar, even though that ended like back when I was in middle school. But I know it's coming, and I know what happens. I just can't bear to watch it.
You got to get on that. You got to get on that.
I know. But I figured if you and I are going to do that idea where we rewatch it, then I'll rewatch it. You guys can all get my live reaction to the last episode.
I like it. Geeks and Gamers, we are working on a lot of projects, so your support is very appreciated. I've thrown out so many ideas to this community, and I've got a lot of work ahead of me. Let me see here. Mattuine says that lightsaber lens flares will solve any problem.
Touche.
Let's see. Jason Wells, mine EU, right? Why wasn't Canto Bite Nar Shada?
I don't know. It's a good. Why was Canto Bite? Period.
Why? That's what they should have. You remember from Infinity War? Why is Gamora? Where is Gamora? What is Gamora? That should have been Canto Bite. Why is Canto Bite? Where is Canto Bite? What is Canto Bite? That would have been a lot better for Canto Bite. Club Star Wars. I'm probably not going to see your reply to this, but I can't believe those people on Twitter even attacked Paul Bateman. Why would you do that? Shaking my head. Yeah, I saw that too. Why?
You're never gonna find a more sweet, wonderful, humble, incredibly loving person than Paul Bateman. And I can't fathom it. I mean, Paul's a great example of somebody who, politically, he and I don't really see eye to eye, but we love each other. And to see him attacked, that was also another one of the reasons why we just left, because it was becoming not just a liability for us. And, you can attack us, fine, but attacking our friends, attacking our guests, attacking our sponsors, attacking in our listeners, it just, to be a lightning rod for that kind of venom and vitriol, it wasn't worth it. It really wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I saw those attacks from Paul Bateman, and it's unbelievable. So, all right, let's see here. G Milano 7. What do you guys think? What do you guys think will happen at Star Wars Celebration? Will Kathleen Kennedy show up and be on stage? I don't think she will be, and if she is, I think she will be in a very controlled environment where any questions or any comments she makes will be pre-planned. But that's my opinion. Jason probably knows a lot more about this than I would, so I would like his take. And then Anna, you can jump into.
I think Kathleen Kennedy is going to be there via video, welcoming everybody at opening ceremonies.
Very good.
I think a lot of this depends on what happens at Comic-Con. Jeremy, I saw your video where already, CNN is planting the seeds of these toxic fans. at San Diego Comic-Con, but I think if I'm Lucasfilm, I'm gonna be watching SDCC like a hawk, because I think that if there is any kind of demonstrations of some sort or unrest, then I think it's going to impact the programming and the flow of Star Wars Celebration. I hope that's not the case. I absolutely adore Star Wars Celebration. It has always been such a great experience. I've been to every single one since Celebration 3 in the States, and I love the fact that it's all types of folks and families, a lot of families. I mean, it's remarkable how you see these little troops of people dressed in costume and of all ages. I'm hoping that I can bring my own kids for at least one of the days in Chicago. So my hope is that it's going to be a really, really happy, loving atmosphere, as it always has been in the past. But we'll see. We'll see. We're going to keep an eye on San Diego and see how that goes.
Anna?
I don't know. Unless they really change their PR stance and the things that their employees are saying on Twitter, I feel like it's just not going to be a war zone, but there's going to be a lot of people there that aren't happy. And then there's going to be a lot of people on the other aspect that are happy. But I have never been to a Star Wars celebration, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect. I've been to a Star Trek convention, just not a Star Wars one.
And if I have anything to say about it, you'll be at Celebration in Chicago. So we'll talk more about that later. So.
Just remember, guys, you don't need anyone's permission to be a Star Wars fan. You don't need any company's position, any PR spokesperson's permission to be a fan. You know, fandom is something that's so personal. No one can give it to you, and no one can take it away from you.
Nice Isis, nice Isis in the comments right now saying all kind of stuff. Jeremy has promised to be the head of the resistance at 100,000 subs. He is nipping at the heels of 70 grand. I've promised a lot of things for 100,000 subs. I've promised like this long live stream where we're going to donate to Give Kids the World. There's a lot. I've still got to destroy my Force Awakens Blu-rays, but that's not at 100 grand. I've destroyed. I've promised a lot. So, and everybody keep tabs on me and hold me accountable. Unlike Lucasfilm, I listen to our community. All right. So anyway, Xavier says favorite lightsaber and favorite lightsaber color. Mine is always the same, and that is Luke's green saber from Return of the Jedi. So, what about you guys and girls?
I'm gonna let you go first,
Darth
Anna.
Vader.
Yeah. Darth Vader.
Darth Vader saber.
I'm gonna go with green color because I'm with you, Jeremy. I love that Return of the Jedi Luke saber. But as far as hilts go, I love Palpatine's hilt. I think that's one of the coolest, and you don't get to see it very, very much. You see it very quickly in Revenge of the Sith, but it's so gaudy and ornate. I love it. Just
nice.
Total attitude.
Let me see here. Ron Navy says no more able to fly using a saber. Filoni, please. I agree with you on that. I love Filoni, but the flying sabers in Rebels, no. How did you feel about flying sabers in Rebels?
No, he's cutting out.
Yeah, can you hear me, Jason? Yeah, we're losing you. Hang on, we'll get him back. All right, you there?
I'm here. Okay. Hopefully you can hear me.
All right, we hear you now. So we didn't hear your answer though.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Well, I said that they can't all be hits. But it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me all that much. It really didn't. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't think Rebels was really half the show that Clone Wars was. I think Clone Wars is an absolute masterpiece. But I knew, going into Rebels, I was well aware of the budget limitations and a lot of the resources that they weren't going to have with that show that they did have with Clone Wars. So my expectations were somewhat tamped down. I think they did some really great things on the show. But it doesn't hold a candle to Clone Wars, which again, I feel like when Clone Wars was hitting on all cylinders, it was nothing short of a masterpiece, maybe one of the best animated series of all time.
Definitely.
Yes.
I agree with you on
Mhm.
that. Anna, we got to make sure you get caught up on Rebels, because
I
that needs
know,
to
I
happen very
know.
soon.
I can't let it end. I'm so sad.
Lotto 2001, do you think there's still hope for the future of Star Wars, especially in episode 9? Don't worry about my name. No one ever says it right. So it's either Lotto or Lato or Leto or Lacio. I tried all I could come up with. So do you think there's still hope for the future of Star Wars, especially in episode 9? Anna, what do you think? Any hope for the future?
Um, gosh, I want to say yes because I mean, I feel like any one of us could come up with a way to fix it, but with the people that are in charge of it, I don't know. I feel like JJ's just gonna try to make it like Return of the Jedi and just try to throw a bunch of nostalgia and try to distract everyone from the horrendous offense that The Last Jedi was. But I don't know. I'm hope so, but I don't know.
Well, my answer is the very near future of Star Wars, I think, is in serious trouble. In serious trouble. But Star Wars will always, as long as you do the right stuff and put the right people in the creative positions, and you don't put political nonsense into it, and you don't attack the fans, I think Star Wars is always going to have an opportunity to succeed. But the near future, I think it's in serious trouble right now. So what do you think there, Jason?
I think that if they don't learn from their mistakes, they're just going to keep repeating them. As far as JJ sprinkling in the nostalgia, that was something I really, really missed in The Last Jedi. What I loved in The Force Awakens, that immediately from the downed Star Destroyers and the AT-AT that Rey was living in, I loved that it put you back into that universe. And it didn't feel like pandering to me, honestly. It felt like, wow, this is what that galaxy would be like 30 years from the last time we saw it. I wanted more of that. I felt very detached from the Star Wars universe throughout The Last Jedi. So I hope that JJ does bring back some of that nostalgia, because I think that it's good set dressing. I would love to see some aliens with some color. Why are they all like sort of like Caucasian-y, fleshy colored aliens anymore? Where are the bold colors? Where's Max Rebo? Where's Greedo? Where's the Hammerhead? Everything is just so bland. When did that happen? It almost feels a little Star Trek-y to me. Look, I think I would not be a Star Wars fan if I didn't believe that there was always hope. I think that there's hope. I believe in Disney, and I think they have the opportunity to course correct, but they've got to admit where they're wrong and where they have misstepped, and that takes humility.
This is true. All right, Revan Blade says animated Old Republic series, easy money, and he also says Mario Kart with a C. You just had to throw it in there, didn't you, Revan Blade? You just had to throw it in there. You couldn't just make a really good comment and make a good point, and a point we all are going to agree with. You had to throw the Mario Kart shade, losing all credibility now. But I do agree with you, and I think we all do too. Ben Abu Saad said, what would you say to the disenfranchised fan? 2, how are you feeling about unchaining yourself from advertisers? And 3, what do you say to the RFR listeners who hate that you're talking to Jeremy? And 4, favorite. So that's so let's start with the first one. What would you say to the disenfranchised fan? And I kind of think you just said it, honestly. You talked about if you didn't have hope, you wouldn't be a Star Wars fan. You kind of touched on a lot of those points, but I'll let you go ahead.
I would say you got to go back and you got to remember what you loved about Star Wars from the beginning. If your jam is the original trilogy and nothing else, then do that and celebrate that and love that and go back and rewatch the films. What I love about Star Wars, like any great myth, is that it evolves as you evolve. If you're a parent, you're going to watch the Star Wars films with a completely different perspective once you have children of your own versus when you were a kid. Great myth, great storytelling does that. It grows up with you. You grow up with it. So it's easy to get down in the muck, in the mire, but just remember, the majority of just normal people out there, they don't understand, they don't realize, they're not plugged in, they don't know any of this crap is going on. So if you need to unhook from it, unhook and go rekindle that spark that made you fall in love with Star Wars from the beginning, because it's still there. It really is still there.
Good answer. How are you feeling about unchaining yourself from advertisers?
Well, we're doing our advertisers a favor, quite honestly. I mean, it's really a shame. I mean, we our numbers are very, very strong. We have proposals coming to us all the time from potential advertisers. We love our advertisers, but unfortunately, in the current environment, it's not. I just don't want to put people through that. I don't really fault them, because that's not their job. If you're just trying to sell underwear, if you're just trying to sell razors, and you all of a sudden are just getting pummeled and attacked by these nut jobs that can @message you in any kind of thread on Twitter, you're just going to want to walk away. You don't want the hassle. So I don't really blame them. It's not their fight it's not their battle to fight. It's not their war to win. So we're going to make it easy on them and easier on us. And we're just going to be 100%. Our goal is to be 100% listener supported.
I like it. And third, what do you say to the RFR listeners who hate that you're talking to Jeremy? I saw some of the comments too, and I see people send me stuff all the time. So I saw a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is a great PR move, RFR. From go find another sexist channel to talk to." Rah, rah, rah. So, right. So yeah, but honestly, yeah, I'd like your honest answer on that. So I mean, not that I would expect anything less, but that's the third part of a 4-part question. So what do you think about that?
You know what? As Jesus once said, "You go where the sinners are." No.
That is awesome. This is the best answer. Round of applause.
Should I leave it at that? No. Look, I've been watching and I've been listening and observing you and what you're doing, and where did this idea come from? Where if you talk to someone, if you go on someone's podcast or go on someone's show, that automatically means you have to be in agreement with everything they have ever said in their entire life and ever will say. It's just insane. I mean, if you would put that standard to people in on mainstream media and in television, think of all the people Howard Stern has interviewed. Are these people saying that they are going to vouch and stand up for everything Howard has ever said? No, you're not Howard Stern, Jeremy. I'm not claiming that. In fact,
I would love to be the next Howard Stern.
I don't really think you've ever said anything that I have vehemently disagreed with. I think you're a great guy. I think you have an amazing group of guests that rotate through, and I think you're fighting the good fight for just the right to get online and have your say, and without fear of being personally attacked. I mean, you're putting yourself out there. So from one to another, brother, I'm happy to be on here.
Yeah, and we're happy to have you. And I know what's being said out there, and again, it's. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Anna is not here because Anna is a girl or a female or whatever you want to call it. Anna's here because she knows her shit. She knows what she's talking about. I didn't, and Anna, came to me because people told her, hey, you should reach out to Jeremy at Geeks and Gamers. Why would people ask her to reach out to a sexist channel if that's the case?
Because I'm a middle-aged sexist man, baby, Jeremy. Didn't you know?
And and so no, what I find funny is that they love, like, all these SJWs that love to complain about everything we say and do, even though they can't name any specifics. It's always this broad generalization.
Always, right.
So, yeah, there's never specifics. They always share our videos or a screenshot, and they try to misrepresent it and scream about it. Yet none of them shared our Shannon McRandall video where we, this community, and in big part from Anna, helped raise thousands of dollars for Shannon's cancer treatment. None of them shared it. Why? If they're so concerned with the content on the Geeks and Gamers channel, if they're so concerned, then why didn't they share that? That wasn't to benefit me. It's not to benefit anybody but Shannon. And our community stood up and they spoke very loud. And none of these people that are always painting us in this light, none of them shared our content. None of them highlighted it. None of them said anything. And they didn't have to say anything positive to us. Just if you're always watching our stuff, which you clearly are.
Right. Right. I love that. I mean, these people are absolutely obsessed. In some cases, they're like stalkers.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Star Wars for life. I've seen you say you're out. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining and appreciate that. But yeah, that's what's frustrating about it. If you're clearly watching our stuff at all times, because you're nitpicking every word that comes out of our mouth. And so
I do love there's one guy on Twitter that he will download an episode of Rebel Force Radio and then share the link, and it's, I don't know if it's his Dropbox, whatever. He's like, here, if you want to listen to what these whats are saying, download from here so they don't get credit for the downloads. It's I don't know, like on the black market or what it is. It's contraband. I mean, do these people, do they ever stop and listen to themselves?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then of course, they'll take little clips here and there, or they'll do the transcript. I love that.
Oh my gosh.
Transcript.
It's like a child when they throw a tantrum for getting in trouble for getting into the cookie jar.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Anna. The question is, when are the grown-ups going to show up?
We're right here.
Yeah, exactly.
And Ben Abosad, because he sent a $10 super chat. I want to make sure I'm covering everything he said. And his fourth was favorite. I don't know what he means by that. Favorite movie? Favorite? I don't know was specifically what he's asking favorite. So Empire Strikes Back for me. Favorite Star Wars movie. I guess we'll just go with that. So what are your favorite movies, each of you?
Empire.
Return of the Jedi.
Nice. Okay. All right. So Greg Reeves says, I remember an old episode of the Forcecast. You guys played the Billy D. Jovan Musk commercial. Are you taking a bottle with you to celebration this year for the Lando return?
I think somebody sent us a bottle of that because it's been a long time. I think they found it on eBay. So we might have to dig that out and see if we can. I don't know. I think when you spray it, just like dust comes out. I don't know what's left of it. We'll see. We'll see. We might be able to get some Billy D mustaches out there and show our love. I'm thrilled that Billy D is going to be in episode 9. Of course, I'm very trepidatious already. Did you guys see the one story covered it on RFR about somebody said, well, you know what? I got the perfect way to take out Lando. You can take out Lando, Leia, and the Millennium Falcon all in one fell swoop. It's like, what how is this a good idea?
Wow.
These people are so self-destructive. Yeah, it's not enough that we've lost.
This isn't Game of Thrones.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Zebulon Pike says the Inquisitors get wrecked in the Vader comics. I haven't read any of the comics, so but I would like to see the Inquisitors getting wrecked. I don't like the Inquisitors are cool, but
they dropped that plot,
very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of jumped the shark with Sarah Michelle Gellar, I guess.
Yeah.
Buffy.
All right, let's see. Jason Wells, real question. Jason, do you feel some of the dismissive attitude towards fan backlash is tainted from the fans' treatment of R.A. Salvatore over Chewbacca's death in Vector Prime? I know it has for me.
I don't think that I'm not a fan of being intentionally overtly hurtful to anybody, whether you agree with them or you don't. If somebody is being personally maligned and attacked online, I think they have every right to defend themselves. My issue is when you're putting something out in the universe and something as popular as Star Wars, and you're contributing to that mythos, and people have legit beefs with it. I think it's kind of beneath you to come out there, and it looks a little desperate to come out there and defend yourself. Rian Johnson's publicity tour for Last Jedi over time became like this weird apology tour. And the whole thing didn't sit well with me. And then, of course, it became very, very defensive. And watch that evolve. As far as Salvatore and the death of Chewbacca, I've never been a big fan of the novels. I always felt that it was too small of a stage to do major character development or character events. just because there just weren't enough people watching, paying attention. So to kill off a character like Chewbacca in a novel is it's a good stunt. But at the end of the day, you just box yourself in. You just paint yourself into a corner, especially with a character that you could potentially go on for hundreds of years. But still never an excuse to go after somebody like that. Agree to disagree, but don't make it personal.
Yep. Nicholas Glenn, what does RFR think of John Campea? Are you familiar with John Campea?
No, who's John?
He used to be he used to be the main guy on AMC Movie Talk, which turned into Collider Movie Talk. And they did like this the Jedi Council show, pretty big YouTube show. It used to be big time, and then John eventually left, created his own show, and he gets accused of being a Disney shill a lot. He's said a lot of he's one of these people that does the whole for people that hate The Last Jedi are racist and sexist, and then he tries to backpedal and say, I didn't mean everybody, and then I don't know. He made fun of a lot of Star Wars fans prior to the Solo movie because of the boycott, and he called them nut-sucking babies, and claiming that the boycott would have no impact whatsoever. And then he made his Solo review about 3 days later, and I mean, he got annihilated by people on YouTube because of him making fun of the fans. And then he tried to play the victim. I used to be a big fan of John Campea. I still have a lot of respect for John Campea in terms of what he did at Collider and AMC. But the last year and a half, man, he's just lost me as a follower and a fan of his channel. But I respect what he's done in the past. But yeah, I mean, if you're not too familiar with him, it's
no, I'm really not. And it was always a policy of ours, back in the Forcecast days and throughout Rebel Force Radio. We never commented on other podcasts. We just didn't. You never really heard, on the shows, you never heard Leno talking about Letterman and vice versa. You just kind of did your own thing. And that's sort of kind of the mentality we grew into this with. And then, of course, that became, the narrative on that became we didn't care about other podcasts. We thought we were better than other podcasts. And the reality was we were just busy doing our own thing. We didn't really, pay much attention, good, bad, or indifferent. Occasionally we would hear from, we've been doing this long enough that now we've got people that listen to us when they were 12, 13 years old. And now they're in their early to mid 20s. And they're like, yeah, we started a podcast because we used to listen to the Forcecast or Rebel Force Radio. And that's really gratifying. I love hearing stuff like that, but I don't really keep up with other Star Wars podcasts much at all.
Gotcha. Let's see. Mega Jetty says, absolutely understand. I'm sure that was from the earlier super chat. That's why I'm writing my own series of stories. Speak now if you all want that title of it. So Mega Jetty 1, if you want the title of their own series that they're writing, speak up and I will give it some love here on the show. So if I can catch it in the comments again. Comrade Commodore, thank you for the super chat. Jason Wells, Anna, you forgot white middle-aged man baby.
I said white.
Did you? I thought you only said man baby, but you might have said white. So Jason, you done messed up now. You done pissed her off. Look, I'm telling you, like, again, Anna sent me a video one time and I had to call her. I was like, Anna, you might need to re-record this one because you went off really bad. She's like, she was pissed because what was it, a Luke Skywalker video, Anna?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm just saying, I'll upload it, but I don't know if it's the best. And she goes, it's all right. That's why I sent it to you. So if you want to take that little part out, I'm like, I'm just saying, I think you went a little overboard. When she gets mad, shoo. And I was even scared to even ask her. I was like,
"Oh, Jeremy, where were you when we went after Aaron the reporter? I could have used your editorial skills there."
Club Star Wars. Jeremy, did you get an apology for being labeled a boycott instigator? Also, Jason, will Kyle Newman appear on RFR again? So no, I did not get an apology. I never expected an apology. He simply edited his article after I put him on blast on YouTube with facts. So he edited his article to change what he said about me and EVS, and we haven't heard anything from him. And that's Brian Young. That's wrote an article, and he mentioned me and Ethan specifically. I think he made me the forefront of it. He said channels like Geeks and Gamers and Ethan Van Sciver were leading the boycott against Solo. And so then I made a video where I used clips over weeks at a time where I said 1,000 times, I do not support boycotts. I'm not calling for a boycott. I'm an individualist. I believe in your right to do with whatever you want with your money. And if I'm not going to see Solo, what I think you should do is go see it twice to offset me if that upsets you. And I support your right to do that. And so I played all these videos. Then he edited his article, but never issued an apology. And I think it's funny that's the type of people that Ryan Johnson's interacting with on Twitter right now. So
Brian's very good at editing his articles and headlines. We'll just put it that way. Brian's got a good history of that.
Will Kyle Newman appear on RFR again?
Oh, of course. I have no reason to believe that he won't. Kyle's a great friend and has been for a long time. So, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. The Grand Inquisitor. What's this here about not liking the Inquisitors? So the Grand Inquisitor.
I loved the original one. I thought that the other ones were kind of a little wacky.
Same here. I like it. I've got one of those big figures of the first Inquisitor, but after that, it kind of just was like, oh man, this kind of lost its meaning because there's like 9,000 of them now, Yeah. And so,
well, do you guys remember that? The Inquisitors, there was a lot of rumors about it featuring into the sequel trilogy, and that was one of the reasons why they were, kind of building it up in Rebels to sort of plant that seed. And the sequel trilogy might have been the return of the Inquisitors. So I think there was a lot of momentum and a lot of thought given to that whole plot device, but it got abandoned very quickly.
Yeah, I think they dropped it really quick. Do you remember that, Anna?
With the Inquisitors?
Yeah, there was some talk about the Inquisitors potentially being featured in the sequel trilogy, but it seemed like that idea went away really quickly when they realized that the Inquisitors it wasn't well received. It wasn't as well received as they wanted it. At least that was my interpretation of it.
Well, if they would have written it better, it would have been well received.
And the Grand Inquisitor, I mean, the first one we were introduced to, I thought there was some potential there, but when there was just like so many more, it's like, okay, it's like if 8 Darth Vaders showed up in A New Hope, we wouldn't really think that highly of Darth Vader anymore.
Right. And they didn't really commit to what, kept them together. I think wasn't it like brother and sister, and it's been a while since I watched it, but it was something like that. So it was a very loose, ambiguous connection between them all.
Jason Wells says, "Nope, Anna forgot White." Anna, Jason has got you. He says facts don't care about your feelings.
Then,
so
I'm sorry, I will correct myself right now. Middle-aged white man baby who lives in my grandmother's basement with my action figures.
Do you guys ever just pinch yourselves and you just can't believe that we're having to talk about Star Wars?
It's cutting out.
Yeah, losing you again, Jason.
Being hacked.
You're being.
I feel like you're saying something very philosophical and awesome, and we're missing it.
No.
I'm just saying that. Can you hear me now?
Got you now.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm just saying that. Do you ever just pinch yourself, like you just can't believe that we're talking Star Wars framed around these, gender and color and all of this stuff? It just seems crazy. Like I'm just living in an alternate universe.
It is. It's I remember watching, Star Wars as a kid, Return of the Jedi. None of these things entered my mind. I never cared. Like I never cared about any of this stuff. All I cared about was this is cool. And I've never seen anything like this, and the Force and lightsabers and Darth Vader's so scary. And at no point did I worry about, Princess Leia's a girl. Like none of it mattered. And now all this identity politics, it's ruining everything. Everybody wants to know what game is playing in the background. Right now, I don't know what that is because it's hard to see, but that's my Super Nintendo Classic. Is that Star Fox? Yeah, that's Star Fox. So that's my Super Nintendo Classic. It's going to rotate all the games right now. That's called production value, kids. Production value.
I miss Ahsoka in the background.
I know everybody misses the Ahsoka background, so I mean, I can make that. I'm moving yeah, I'm moving things around, so this may not be my final form. We will see. Salvatore was told by Lucas to kill Chewie. He didn't have to. Love Salvatore, but and Terry Brooks, they're both better doing their own stuff.
Here's the story behind the Chewbacca thing. Is that so? Apparently, they wanted to do something big, and they sent a list. They asked Lucasfilm for a list of characters that were off limits in terms of who they could kill. And apparently Chewbacca was not on the list. And so he's like, well, Chewbacca's not on the list, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this with Chewbacca. So it was really, honestly, I feel like it was some sort of weird clerical error or something. Somebody did not get Chewie on the list. He should have been on the list. But they went with it because they were looking to, make a big splash. But I don't think they set out and said, what would make this story really interesting? What if Chewbacca died? They were just looking for a character to kill off.
Yep. All right, Obi-Wan 27883. What do you think about the defensive comments that Star Wars is a kids movie? Do you believe that is true or no, and why? Anna, what do you think about that? What do you think about?
I did a whole video on that. If you guys want to go watch it, it's
you can
50 minutes long.
Drop a link in the comments, and or just drop a link to your channel, and they can go after the show if you want, and subscribe to that Star Wars Girls channel. So we'll go give us the
Star Wars Girl, because apparently there's someone copying me.
What's the gist? Give us the gist on that. How do you feel about it?
Oh, me? I'm trying to drop the link. Jason, you go first.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, me? Oh, gosh. Is Star Wars are Star Wars kids movies? I think that the prequels are pretty overtly kids movies. I think that George Lucas, at his heart, is a very personal storyteller, a very personal guy. I think that the films reflect his state of mind, where he was in his life and his career. And when he was writing and directing the prequels, he had a young family. He had these 3 young kids, two daughters and a little boy. And I always felt like those movies were almost like, in some ways, love letters to his children. I don't think that the original trilogy was created specifically just for kids. I think that one of the geniuses of George Lucas was that he was really, when I think about George Lucas writing the original trilogy, I think about in The Nightmare Before Christmas when Jack Skellington is up in his laboratory and he's trying to dissect and analyze what makes Christmas, so magical. I mean, that's what George was doing with myth and storytelling. He was trying to break it down to its elements. He wanted to make a hit. He wanted to make something that really resonated with people. And he realized that there was a lot of power to archetypes and that type of storytelling. It wasn't really by accident. It was lightning in a bottle in some ways, but in other ways it was very premeditated. And I think he did discover almost like a secret formula for making great stories that were universal. But they're so primal. I think that they certainly resonated with kids, but they resonated with parents that wanted to share them with their kids. So I don't think they were created specifically for children. It just happened to be that, a young audience loved them because they were swashbuckling adventure stories. But I would say that I do believe that the prequels, I think he had a young, I think in particular, he was thinking about young boys. I think he was thinking about his son Jet at the time he was writing the prequels. That's my take.
I think the term kids movie, it has a negative, tone to it when people talk about it. But look at Pixar movies; those are some of the most emotional movies you'll find. Toy Story 3, yeah, that's a kids movie, and it's also a prison break movie, and it's also emotional as hell. I mean, and
Toy Story 3 does not exist to me. It's done.
What?
Heck no.
You don't like Toy Story 3?
Andy would never give away Woody and Buzz. They were family toys that were passed down to him. It doesn't exist to me.
You just thought we have a whole new show to have now. You and me just have a whole new show. You totally, this is supposed to be Star Wars. You got me all got me.
No, we can
all
have a Disney debate on another channel or on another stream. But
I'm still reeling about how passionately Anna was talking about Wrath of Khan. I want to sit and have a good 2-hour chat about Star Trek Wrath of Khan with Anna.
Heck yeah, let's do it. I haven't been able to nerd out about Star Trek unless I get to see my dad.
I like it. I mean, we can do it. We can do it here. We can do it over there on Anna's channel. We can, wherever you guys want to have that conversation, I'm game. So that's amazing. So Matt Tuween says, get that resume ready, Anna. No, Anna's not going anywhere. I've already told Anna, even if she wants to quit, I'm gonna beg her to stay. So,
well, no, this is like, honestly, this is the first time in my life that I have actually been able to have a conversation with people about Star Wars that actually understand it to the depth that I do. So I've never had this, and the closest thing I had was my brother, but me and my brother are not very close. And then I had my father, and that's my father. So father and like friends, it's going to be a bit different. So I love my father no matter what his opinions are on Star Wars, but it's really nice to be able to be part of this community that shares a love for something that I've loved my entire life, that no one's really understood my love for it. So yeah, I just appreciate everyone.
Well said.
It's an honor.
Yeah, and that conversation kind of went in a different direction, but I think in a great direction. So we're going to leave it at that. So Laura Ryan stole my fan fiction story. I feel like the novels now are far superior to The Last Jedi. Claudia Gray's Lost Stars should be made into a young adult movie. I have Lost Stars sitting over on my shelf. I still haven't read it yet. I'm not a big book reader, but I do want to. I've heard a lot of good things about Claudia Gray's Lost Stars. Either of you familiar with Lost Stars?
I am not.
Okay.
Show me the cover of it, and then I'll tell you if I know it or not.
All right. And Gabriel, what's up, Gabriel? Gabriel says, "Where's Ivan?" Ivan as
he's with his mommy.
Yeah, he's got some family stuff going on right now. So very soon, the Common Sense crew will return in full form. We will have Anna, we will have Ivan and Jesse and myself here on the Geeks and Gamers channel. And I'm probably going to make that an audio version too, so you guys can download it on the Geeks and Gamers podcast network. Someone made that suggestion earlier in our live stream, and I think it's a great idea. So we're going to try to make a lot of these shows. We'll transition them into audio form and upload them to the podcast network. I think you guys will enjoy that. Okay. Let's see. So Mega Jetty 1 says, Blue Shogun, a story about a high school boy with mystical powers saving the world in order to reunite with his family. That's Blue Shogun is the title of their story, their personal story they're writing. So awesome to hear that, Mega Jetty, and good luck. Definitely Blue Shogun. Jason Wells, I'm sorry, Anna. Jeremy, now you're going to get pinged for letting Anna get mansplained.
What does that even mean?
Ask the SJWs. Anytime a man tries to say anything to an SJW or to a female or a woman or whatever, it's the man. Like, we can't have an opinion. It's called mansplaining. Like, we're dominating over you because we're a man and we get to talk. That's the gist of it right there. So
but don't they remember I'm an overweight, fat, white dude that lives in my grandmother's basement, and I'm a man baby too. Is that everything this time? Because I saw people said I missed something. So
Stephanie B said Jeremy said female.
Uh-oh.
Revan Blade. Okay, so Revan Blade made a comment, a super chat, and this time did not bring Mario Kart with a C into it. So we're gonna take this comment seriously. Revan Blade. Star Wars is for kids. Cuts to the Clone Wars season 5 episode 16. I don't know. I think I know exactly what you're talking about, what episode, but there's so many episodes. There's some dark episodes in the Clone Wars. Oh. Very dark
season
episode.
2.
Yeah,
final.
Season. Well, there's moments with the Maul stuff, the Mortis stuff. There's just so much. And I love all of it. So great point, Revan. All right, so this is where we're gonna segue into another part of the conversation I want to have, because you know Dave Filoni. You have had him on RFR many of times. How many times? I mean, is it a lot? This is back in the day.
Yeah, this is back in the day. I mean, during the Clone Wars, we had him on 2 or 3 times a year, for each season. We would usually have him on at the top of the season, and then we'd have what we call our halftime show, where he would come in halfway through the season, and then again towards the at the end, once we saw the season finale. So 2 or 3 times a year for 5 or 6 years, he's been coming on, or had been coming on. And yeah, we got to know him, and I just have oodles of respect for him. I think he's the next best thing, really, to George Lucas. I don't think anybody outside of George understands Star Wars at the level that Dave Filoni does.
So when you hear a lot of people, myself included, Christian Harloff has made this comment, a lot of other people within the Star Wars community, do you think that Filoni wants to be president of Lucasfilm? And I'm not saying does he want to take Kathleen Kennedy's job per se. I'm just saying if the opportunity was there, if the position was open, do you think he has the interest in being the head of Lucasfilm on a personal level?
I have I have no way of knowing that, and I haven't actually spoken to Dave Filoni in probably 2 years. I think it's been. What I know of Dave is I think Dave wants to tell great stories. I think Dave, that's what motivates him. He worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender before coming into Lucasfilm. But once he got into Lucasfilm, it was all about learning at the knee of George Lucas, soaking in everything he possibly could, and then putting that out for the fans. I don't really want to see him ever necessarily behind a desk, in a sense that he's doing making routine business decisions. I want to see him actually being the person who is got a big mind map on a screen, or on a whiteboard behind him, that's mapping out the next 3-4 years of Star Wars storytelling, everything that we're going to see on the small screen and the big screen. That's what I would like to see Dave Filoni doing, as opposed to some story group or committee. Would he be interested in doing that? I really don't know. I would love to see him do that, because, as I say, there's nobody out there for my money that gets it to the level that he does.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of us want him for head of creative and all that stuff, and I don't know if I mean, I would assume he would take that position if it was offered to him. I don't know the guy. I'm a fan of his work. But I'm curious if they even think he's qualified for it. I mean, he's never ran a major studio. He's never done a live action film. So I don't.
Look at the people that are technically qualified and how epically they're failing at it.
This is true. I mean, you look at Kathleen Kennedy's resume, and she would be quote unquote qualified. And we see how that worked out. So
my take on Kathleen Kennedy is I just don't think that she has the creative chops. I think she might be wonderful behind the scenes and helping to produce films. She might be a great money raiser. She might be a great detail oriented person, keeps the planes landing on time, all of that kind of thing. But I've not seen anything that leads me to believe that she is some great creative mastermind, and that's not necessarily a dig, an attack. I mean, we all have our own gifts, but I don't know that she was suited for that, and I don't think George Lucas chose her to be president of Lucasfilm for that reason. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I think George, when he chose Kathleen Kennedy, still felt that he was going to be creatively leading the ship in terms of the direction of the stories.
This is true. Jason Wells says, I just want to see how many times I can get Anna to say fat white middle-aged man baby.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I have something to add to this conversation. I don't want to get distracted.
All right, go for it.
Going to their narrative. So with this whole business thing, so technically Dave Filoni would be the person with the most experience, the most true to what George Lucas created for Star Wars. And yes, he does not have that business background. But then who owns Star Wars right now? Oh yeah, Disney. Did Walt Disney have very much business sense? No. The only reason he wasn't in prison was because of his brother getting him out of everything. So just look at
100%.
that right there. The creative person that started this, the reason why Disney is so powerful was because of one man that was creative, that had ideas, that started this huge empire. Then you look at men like George Lucas. So George started off small. You know, he did the THX, then he did American Graffiti. And that was a very low budget movie, but look at what it did. Movies wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for American Graffiti. And yeah, I grew up in Modesto, so every single summer there's an American Graffiti parade. It's still going on today. My mother is in the American Graffiti parade. It's absolutely ridiculous, and the entire town is obsessed with it. And
That
then
is awesome.
going from that, he made Star Wars, and nobody thought it was going to be successful. When he showed it to his friends from college, the only one that thought it was going to be something was, guess who? Steven Spielberg, another creative genius. And look at how successful those creative people are. So you don't just have to have that business side. You can be the creative person, and then guess what? You have someone do that business stuff for you. And I'm going to assume that Dave Filoni has enough common sense to tell when the business person is being shady or not making good decisions. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Boom. Now, if you were curious, Anna's been having a lot of Wi-Fi issues, camera issues. We've been texting back and forth. So now she's here. So now get ready, strap in. Anna's here. She's ready to start firing some bombs. But yeah, those are great points. Those are great points. And I love your point about Walt Disney and Roy Disney. And Walt was the genius. He was the creative genius. But a lot of people don't know Walt Disney as a company, all of the stuff that Walt Disney created. None of that would exist without Roy behind the scenes. None of it. And that's what you can do. You give Dave Filoni, who may not have the experience of running a major studio, give him the creative control because he knows this universe. He knows it, and he's going to do what's best for it. He's the best guy for the job. And give him someone that knows the business side of things to be in the background. You know what I mean? And to work together.
It's the best PR move they could do. I tell you what, if they want to make a big splash at Star Wars Celebration, make that your opening ceremonies. Make Kathleen Kennedy announce that Dave Filoni is now the head of creative at Lucasfilm. And you would watch that place. The roof would come off of that place. Because what they have to do is they have to reestablish trust with the fans. And it can't just be the fans that loved Rian Johnson's Last Jedi. It has to be all of the fans. And Jeremy, you and I were talking before the show started. You know, it's not as if Lucasfilm has never had controversy. The Clone Wars was not popular when it first started. Ahsoka was not a popular character. Now she's probably, outside of the film canon, the most beloved original character to be introduced into the Star Wars saga. And that has everything to do with Dave Filoni, and has everything to do with Ashley Eckstein and her the way that she portrayed the character, the two of them working together, making it better over time, evolving the character. And I also believe listening to the fans. I mean, when the character first emerged and there was the whole, you know, R2 and Sky Guy and, you know, gee shucks. And, you know, they tried to create this narrative that Star Wars fans were angry because there was a girl in Star Wars, but that wasn't real. What Star Wars fans were incredulous about with the introduction of Ahsoka Tano is, oh my God, we never knew that Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan. How's that possible? And instead of Dave Filoni going out and saying, you guys, you just a bunch of people, you don't like girls, blah, blah, blah. No, he said, you know what, follow along this journey. We're going to show you how this is possible. Trust us. Just, keep watching. And over time, it got better and better and better. And then, now the character is legend. That's how you do it. Dave Filoni loved at the end of panels at conventions, whether it be Star Wars Celebration or the old fan days in Dallas or C2E2, he loved being challenged by fans. Fans would come up to him and say, I can't believe you did this to the Mandalorians. And he would sit there and he would listen and he would kind of laugh. And before you know it, they were, they were old friends because there was a mutual respect there. And the guy just has it. I don't know exactly what it is, but he has it. And I think that it really does come down to respecting the property, understanding the property, and respecting the fans because, he's one of us.
Yep, that's true, guys. That is not Mike Zero in the comments. If that was Mike Zero, it would have a check mark next to his name because he's got over 100,000 subs. So don't let the trolls get you. Don't let them get you off target. Plus, I've always been very complimentary about Mike Zero's channel. I've always actually stood up for him in many occasions. So that's not him. All right, let's see. Jason Wells.
By the way, I just want to throw in, we're probably not doing Dave Filoni any favors by guys like you and me defending him.
So true. Anna, go ahead. How you want to read that one?
Jason, I will read this one for you. Let me just scroll back. Anna, that is the best way I've ever been told to F off. Rock on.
Oh, man.
Well, you're welcome.
What's up, Mundane Matt? See, that's really Mundane Matt right there. So Mike is sleeping. So, yeah, that's not Mike Zero. The moment I saw it, though, I was like, okay, first of all, that's not like Mike Zero to comment on someone else's video because Mike is very low key. And number two, there's no check mark next to it. So there's no way that's Mike. That's not anything he would do. But I like Mike Zero's channel. And he's been catching hell from a lot of people. I don't know why. I mean, yeah.
What'd he do other than have 100,000 subscribers?
Right. I mean, Mike does do a lot of he does a lot of videos where he doesn't source a lot of the stories. He kind of talks, he makes up a lot of stuff. It feels like he does, and maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but he's playing the YouTube game, man. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel bad. Who's Mike Zero?
Mike Zero, he's a Star Wars channel. He's got about 120,000 subs. He's been doing this for a while.
Is that the guy you talked about before, or is this a new guy?
I'm not sure. I've never had any interactions with Mike Zero before, but like I said, I like his stuff. He talks a lot about he talks a lot of stuff, but he doesn't have sources behind it sometimes, and a lot of people that drives them crazy, and that's fine. But my point is Mike doesn't attack anybody. He's not confrontational. He's just doing his thing. And again, I'm a big believer. Market determines the market. If 100,000 people want to subscribe to Mike Zero, then that means 100,000 people like what he's got to say. And that's not his fault. That's not nobody should be concerned with it. What's his name? Logan Paul, whatever he's got, all his subscribers. Congrats. I can't stand the guy. That doesn't mean that I don't think he shouldn't have a platform. People,
is always running around without a shirt. Is that him?
Yeah, but again, people want to sub to him. They find him entertaining. The market determines the market. That's awesome. If people want to subscribe to all of these people that write hit pieces on me or RFR, then go for it. You know what I mean? If you're not doing enough research and that's the type of stuff you want to support, then support it. I truly don't care. I believe in the free market. You know what I mean? I believe as individuals, you do whatever you want to do, and the market determines the market. That's the way I've always looked at it. So, all right, let me see what we got going on here. All right, so we're caught up on super chats. And, I don't want to go too much longer. I really appreciate, you joining us. We can go for another maybe 15, 20 minutes if that's cool with both of you.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, after listening to, theforce.net and RFR for so long, I'm kind of geeking out a little bit. The fact that I've got Rebel Force Radio on here. It's just a swank. And so...
Yeah, well, that's nice. That's nice of you to say. I mean, I'm geeking out because I've been watching you guys and for a while. Aww. And no, truly, because it's I don't keep up with a lot of Star Wars podcasts, but my kids just are absolutely nuts about YouTube, and so of course it would make these recommendations. Aww. And so all of a sudden I start seeing, because Star Wars is something that's searched a lot in our YouTube account, and I would start seeing these videos pop up, and so I started seeing Jeremy's videos, and I started seeing your videos as well. I thought the story that the video you put out about your personal journey as a Star Wars fan was incredibly moving, and took a lot of courage to put it out there and bury yourself. Anytime, that's another thing that a lot of these armchair critics want to do is they can hide behind their avatars and their fake accounts. But I'm me, I'm putting my name out there, and I've been doing it for a long time. You guys are putting your names out there. I'm not hiding behind anything. This is my face. This is my voice. I'm a human being. I'm putting my thoughts and my feelings out there for everyone to see. And there is a certain, it does take a certain level of, maybe a little bit of ego, but also some humility and some courage as well. And so certainly more courage than it takes to hide behind a pithy name on a Twitter handle. I just, there's no I don't think there's any real bravery there. But anyway, I mean, these videos would pop up, and of course Ethan, you never know what Ethan's going to say. So I, watching that as well. And I've been having a ball. I just love these fresh takes. And it really was refreshing because, we started seeing the writing on the wall with some of this stuff years ago. I mean, whether it be the slave Leia debate, whether it be sort of this kind of almost radical anti-male female Star Wars fan that started popping up a little bit here and there. About 4 or 5 years ago, we started getting catching shade from these folks to just wanting to sort of rewrite the history of what we've been doing on the podcast. Again, we spun off the first all girl, all female Star Wars podcast when there was a little girl being bullied about wanting to carry a Star Wars lunchbox, whose hero was Ahsoka Tano. We put her on the show with her mom and united her with Ashley Eckstein right on the air. It just it's frustrating when you feel that you've laid a lot of cable behind you and you have enough of a track record where it can be erased or completely forgotten in the blink of an eye because somebody wants to call you a bad name and mention you in a conversation about ridiculous topics. It's a very, very difficult time to be someone who's routinely putting your opinions out there.
I agree. What do you think about the fandom changeover in recent years, Anna, from your perspective, and going on that personal story that Jason just mentioned that you shared, to the lead up to The Force Awakens to now where we're at now? What are your thoughts on how that's all kind of shifted?
Well, honestly, I got made fun of my entire life for being this weird Star Wars girl, and again, people didn't care what I looked like. When I was in high school, yeah, I went to the same high school as George Lucas. The only people that I got along with because of that were my teachers. And yes, I have my good friends, but I mean, the vice principal of the school was a huge Star Wars fan. That's why he worked there. And he and I got along fantastically. And when I graduated from high school, I gave the speech all about Star Wars. And of course, my classmates, they liked it and they got it and they're like, oh yeah, that's just like Anna, she's weird and she likes Star Wars. But then I heard from my sisters who were younger than me, they're like, oh yeah, people were making fun of me because I'm related to you and you gave this speech all about Star Wars. And then when I went to college, it was completely different because, I was going to college for art and concept art. So I was surrounded by people who love Star Wars. And one of my teachers actually worked on Star Wars. So it was so nice to actually be surrounded by people that were weird like me, that like that kind of stuff. And, when The Force Awakens came out, I know, Jeremy, you know how many times I watched that movie. And I don't think I should say that. But let's just say it was not my favorite Star Wars movie, but I went and saw it a lot. And, I knew that it wasn't my favorite, and there was a lot of things I have problems with, but I thought they were going to be solved. And with what happened to Han Solo, I knew that that was going to be the last time I saw Han Solo. And I just couldn't, really handle that in the best sense, even though I knew that, Harrison Ford has been wanting him to get killed off forever. But when he died, I cry every time I watch it. I just can't do it. And so when I was getting ready for, The Last Jedi, I was super hyped. I bought tickets the night of and the morning after just because I didn't know about my work schedule. And just going into that theater and saying, WTF within the first 5 minutes of a Star Wars movie, and just being so angry. And I have never done anything disrespectful in a movie theater because I hate it when people do that. But I was cussing throughout the entire movie. And then when the movie ended, I wasn't the only one. There were many people within the theater that booed at the end of this movie. And I walked out of the theater, and take in mind, I had a couple drinks before I went into the movie theater. And I'm just saying, what the F, like that couldn't be the real Star Wars movie. This has to be a prank. Who the hell like is behind this? Like someone from my past is coming back and pulling a horrible like prank on me. And then I went and saw it the next morning and I was like, oh my God, this is even worse than I remember it last night. How is that even possible? And then finding out that I'm not the only one that feels this way. Because at first I thought I was kind of crazy, but then that's just because it had only been out for like 12 hours. Yep. So just to see everything that's happened and the explosion of it on the internet, because if it was just me, then, you know, it would be my own personal problem. I'd try to do some self-reflecting, but seeing channels like you, Jeremy, seeing channels like World Class Bullshitter, seeing someone like Ethan going off about this, and then seeing your podcast and you guys actually liked The Last Jedi, and yes, you've admitted that you have problems with it, but even though you're technically in favor of it and people are still attacking you for that, that's a huge problem. Like, I don't care what they're going to try to paint a picture of. That's wrong.
Yeah, you realize it really doesn't have anything to do with The Last Jedi. You know, in some ways, these are people that are driven by a political agenda. They've become just untenable and unhinged ever since 2016. And I think in a lot of ways, are using Star Wars as a vehicle to act out. I really do. Jeremy said it, you know, everything is politicized now. Nothing is safe. You can't watch a football game without them throwing politics in your face. Now you can't go to a Star Wars movie without politics being thrown in your face. And you can't even see the PR buildup to a Star Wars film without being told, you know, how virtuous they are because they cast, you know, this woman or this Asian man or this African-American or whatever. Why don't you just tell us how great the character is? Stop breaking your arm, patting yourself on the back because, you know, of some quota that you feel that you filled. And it's also a really hollow move because what you've done is you've tried to, in some ways, inoculate yourself from criticism by hiding behind, you know, these social issues. And it's a disservice to the fans. It's a disservice to the actors that you've hired, that you're kind of putting them up as props. I have no issue at all with any of the casting. You know, the issue with Rose Tico isn't that Rose Tico is Asian or that Rose Tico is a girl. It's that her character doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She's a bit annoying. And at the end of the day, she really didn't do much but get in the way.
That's it. It's 100% correct.
It has nothing to do with the fact that she's Asian or a girl. But if they're going to try to coat these characters in these plots in the Teflon of social issues, then, you know, they're always going to win because no matter what you say, you can say, well, you're just saying that. You know, I was brokenhearted when JJ Abrams said that about Last Jedi, that, you know, it's reaction to strong females or, you know, it's just, that is such a cop out. It's such a cop out.
Yep, it is. All right. So Jason Wells says Mike is best at fan theory, talking about Mike Zero. Mopar Club Cab says, please make this a regular thing. I mean, yeah, I don't know if it's something we could do like maybe once a month or, you know, what your schedules are looking like, but I would love to have you guys on once a month or something like that, Jason.
I'd be happy anytime.
Yeah. So we've had a really good reaction to this show. Data Eraser 117. Jason, what do you think about the LSG the Lucasfilm Story Group individually? So, yeah, the only ones I know of is Carrie Hart and is Pablo on it?
Yeah, I think Pablo still is.
I think he is.
I think Pablo is. You know, it's kind of sad. I mean, I've met Pablo many times. I've had the opportunity to socialize with him. He can be very kind. He's very quiet. I think he's a very nice man. I do feel that he, you know, my point is I never asked for Pablo to take it upon himself to go out on social media and school everybody about their theories. I never asked for him to come and pee in my fanboy Cheerios. You know, if I want to, you know, think and postulate and come up with all kinds of ideas, I don't need him coming around on Twitter telling me I'm all wet. And if I didn't read this particular book or didn't see this particular comic, you know, that was all answered back then. But I can see how that would become exasperating for him. So maybe he just needed a break or whatever. But over time, I just felt like his responses and the way he sort of treated fans that were reaching out to him just became a little bit more and more condescending and cocky and arrogant, and like he was doing you a favor by replying to your tweet. I just didn't like the way it progressed. And again, maybe he was just tired and needed a break. But, you know, he was kind of like putting himself out there, and it's like, well, you know what? Nobody asked you to do this. Nobody asked you to take on that role.
Lando Lake. Anna and Jason aren't going to get it, but I'm reading your comments. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Everybody in the comments that watches Mike Zero will understand that. Oh, sorry, I had to read that.
That's all right.
That shit was hilarious. Fuck, you guys got me crying now. All right. Revan Blade, it's episode 5 right now. Watch out, Disney. Jedi Return. The Star Wars philosophy. Bring Matt on. You guys will work well together. Yeah, I had a blast having Monday Matt on. So everybody's laughing now. But yeah, that was funny. All right, so yeah, let's go another maybe 10 minutes. So if you guys have any final questions that you want to send over to Jason for RFR, or if you have questions for Anna, have questions for myself, I mean, you can ask me questions every weekday at 6 p.m. So I'm not that important right now. And don't forget, let's see, dig the conversation.
More people can ask me questions.
I said, yeah, they can.
You left me out of that one.
No, I did. You didn't hear me?
No.
Oh, I must have skipped out. I did. I said you or Jason, because I'm here every day. So dig the conversation, guys. A great chemistry, Jeremy, with RFR. Definitely do it again. Well, thank you. I'm sure that everybody has enjoyed this. This was a really good. How's Lauren? Lauren's good. Lauren was in the chat earlier for my live stream, but she's hanging out with family right now, so she's going to be hit or miss for the next week or two, but she'll be back. So get Mike Zero on the show. I'd love to have Mike Zero on. I don't think he would come on. That just doesn't seem like his thing. At some point I'll have Star Wars Theory on. I just need to get into contact with him. I just haven't talked to him in weeks just because he's been busy. I've been busy. So I have a question. Where is Jimmy Mack? Where's Jimmy Mack at, Jason?
Jimmy Mack's on vacation, a much needed vacation. He's actually out west. He's in California with the family.
Nice.
Hey, that's where I am.
Yeah, he's LA, San Francisco. He's kind of hopping around.
Okay. Let's see. I don't want to. It's not too big of a spoiler, I don't think. So, Jason, Jeremy, do you think it would have been better story-wise if Ahsoka died in Rebels? Supposedly, it was in the draft for the script. Don't quote me. No. Now, I understand that there's some criticisms. I'm not going to go too into detail because Anna hasn't seen Rebels, or at least all of it. She's not caught up. But there's a, and you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, Jason, but there's a controversial element to the Clone Wars and how Ahsoka was brought back into it. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. And I get it. I understand the criticism. I personally freaked out, like, in a good way during that episode. I went crazy during that episode. And so I think that a lot of people thought that she was going to be dead. I don't know. What did you think, Jay? Did you think she was?
I didn't. I think it was it was pretty clear from Dave Filoni's little stunt where, he was, if you think it was the last celebration where
Ahsoka lives. Sure.
Yeah. Ahsoka lives shirt. Yeah. I think we all knew that. I like that she came back. I think that, she's a character that obviously the fans weren't ready to let go of. I thought they did it in a really clever way. I'll be honest. I think in some ways, the Force, whether think of the Witches of Dathomir and the magic that brought Darth Maul back in Clone Wars, to the wolves that we met in Rebels. I sometimes I feel like it's being stretched a little bit too thin without some concrete handles to where we can really kind of wrap our heads around it. So I just hope that they continue to build on it. We know we've got the new series coming up Resistance. So maybe Dave Filoni, he doesn't forget anything. I thought Rebels built upon Clone Wars quite well. Hopefully Resistance will build on Rebels quite well, and we'll get some answers. But I wasn't ready to see Ahsoka go. I'm ready to see Ahsoka star in her in her own movie. That's what I want to see. I want to see Dave Filoni write a live action Ahsoka film.
Same here.
Yes.
Mega Jetty 1. Anna, I'm so jealous of you going to George Lucas's high school, but I still like you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm about to make you even more jealous. So one of the funny things that happened. So I almost got expelled from high school because I brought a sword to homecoming. Totally explainable reason why. But so like I said, the vice principal of my school was, a huge, huge Star Wars fan. His license plate was Red 5. So he brings me in. He's like, so Anna, I think we need to talk. And I'm just like, oh my God, please don't expel me kind of thing. And then I was like freaking out and I was crying because I was like, I didn't mean to, they told me to bring pirates. It was homecomings and our theme was like pirates. So they said, bring all of your pirate stuff. So my mom's an antique dealer and she had this old authentic pirate sword, but it was rusted shut in this sheath. So I brought it thinking, no, nothing. But then they're like, oh my God, you brought a sword. Da, 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 da. And so, yeah. And so I'm freaking out and his way of calming me down was bringing out George Lucas's personal files from school and letting me read them and show me them. And I touched them and they're amazing and it was glorious.
I love that we're now quoting all of these YouTube channels. So the Senate says, "Welcome to Comic Artist Pro Secrets. My name is Ethan Van Sciver, 25-year veteran in the comic book industry, creator of the Smash Indigo hit campaign Cyber Frog Blood Honey. I'm also the illustrator of," and that cuts off there, but Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, and I'm a great big Star Wars fan.
I love that he always throw that, and of course a great big Star Wars.
Yeah. The first time I ever saw, I didn't know who Ethan was. I saw his video where he, I think the title was Rose Tico toy sales increased 300% because he went and bought 5 of them. And his sarcasm was incredible. And I gave him a shout out here on the channel. And it sent a lot of attention his way up for YouTube. I mean, obviously he's a comic book celebrity, so he's very well known. But he told me, we were talking a couple weeks ago. He said, "Dude, I got so much attention when you shouted me out." And I'm like, "What, Ethan? I can't even get 200 live viewers when you're live. Don't act like I sent any attention your way."
He does suck all the oxygen out of the room, doesn't he?
But yeah, I just loved that video he made, and and then he was in Orlando for a comic book appearance, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna head on down to Orlando. So I went down there, hung out, we went to Toys R Us together. He was live streaming. We were making fun of all the Star Wars toys that were still on the shelf, and he had no plan of what he was going to do, and I had no clue what he was going to do. So I took over his phone for his live stream. He's buying all these toys, all these Rose Tico figures. We go out in the parking lot, and he puts the bag over his shoulder, and he calls himself Uncle Ethan Santa or something like that. And he starts putting all the Rose Ticos on each of the windshields of the cars like a present. So, it was great. And I was like, this is amazing.
How do people, even if people disagree with Ethan, how do you not find that funny? What is wrong with people that they are such sticks in the mud that they don't find the humor in that?
He's great.
We just take ourselves so seriously, don't we?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, just like we were talking earlier about opinions and all that's not allowed anymore. And we're going to have a lot of fun Friday. We're going to have a lot of fun on this channel. I'm going to be watching The Force Awakens with Ethan and with Jeff from World Class. And they're both going to, they're going to give me hell, because that's what friends do with each other. We make fun of each other. We tell each other to fuck off. We laugh at each other. This is what we do. Nobody is ever going to get along or nobody's going to have opinions that's going to line up 100% in life. That's just not how it works. How
boring would that be?
It would be terribly boring. It would be terribly boring. And this community is this community that I love dearly. They aren't going to be my friends Friday night. They're going to be my enemies, and we're going to go at it, and it's going to be beautiful, and I can't wait for it. And
then you'll still be friends afterwards. That's the thing. Imagine that.
Darth Bane says, I'm a big fan of Jeremy, but he's looking like Jason Voorhees right now with my shirt. And yeah, I can get a hockey mask and wear that during the Force Awakens live stream. Of course,
You do look like you just impaled someone with a rake, Jeremy. Actually,
let's see. Gamepad 31, Jeremy, TFA is a great film, one of the first of the new trilogy that I watched in theaters. Yeah, it retroactively, it's not going to hold up for me, I don't think, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Russell Mania, have you all noticed how badly they recreated the ending of TFA in the TLJ? It's clearly cloudy and TFA, sunny in TLJ. It's a joke that they can't even get a simple element like that right in such an important scene. You know, considering I haven't watched The Force Awakens since then, I'm going to be interested to look at that aspect of it. But yeah,
well, maybe it was symbolic.
It's true. That's very true.
There's a dark cloud.
Well, I mean, you know, we all waited 2 years for that. We all waited 2 years for that moment, you know, of what was Luke going to say? How was he going to react? How was this going to happen? And I just, to do it the way they did it, it just showed a lack of self-awareness from Rian Johnson's perspective to not understand how much that moment would have and should have meant.
Or he was just trying way too hard. It's like, why are you making it so hard on yourself, Ryan? I mean, it practically writes itself, man.
Yep. One force, one balance. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. All right. So real quick, I just again I want to thank you know, Jason for being on. It's really cool to have Rebel Force Radio here on the Geeks and Gamers channel. I want to thank Anna, who's Anna. Real quick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay.
What's up?
Do you want to watch TFA with us on Friday night for the High Council?
The Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So you heard it here first. Anna will be on the live stream with Ethan, with myself, and World Class, and everybody's excited now in the chat. So, so it's going to be Anna, myself, Ethan, and World Class, and it's going to be awesome. So Monday, Matt, thank you for the compliment, man. Appreciate that. And let's see. Jeremy's beard makes me like Tom Brady. I have no idea what you're trying to say, Brad Noble. I mean, I know you're trying to take a shot at Tom Brady because you always do, but I don't know exactly what you're trying to say there. Yeah. So Jason, real quick, if can you email me a link real quick that you want me to send everybody to, and I can drop it in our comments because you won't be able to drop it. It won't take it. So
yeah, sure. Just rebelforceradio.com, please.
So there you go. So let me drop that now.
Where you can get the shows and. Yeah, in fact, you can also, if you're interested, I know a lot of folks like to go back and listen to old shows when we were kind of ramping up to a new movie release. We also have reviewed roundtable style every single episode of the Clone Wars, every single episode of Rebels, and so those are available on the archives. We also have the archives over at forcecast.net. I think they call us like Legacy or something like that.
Oh, boy.
But you can find all of those there. So we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of great guests drop by, and you can just do a search on the website for Dave Filoni and catch some of those interviews. Regardless of how Dave may or may not feel about us these days, we still have a great fondness for him, and it was always a pleasure and truly an honor to talk to him. He's a great guy, smart guy, and loves and knows Star Wars inside and out.
Bagel Goose says that didn't sound like consent. I think he's talking about Anna's comment, and that's Bagel Goose. I think that's Cecil's backup account. That's what I've been told. So that's Cecil's backup account where he can he praises himself with super chats. And that is the most Cecil thing I've ever seen in my life. If that's exactly what it is.
The guy is actually paying money to
compliment
himself.
Well, guys, didn't you remember me say that every time I watch Han Solo die, I cry? So that's my reluctance, is I don't feel like being the only one crying in a group full of guys. Just saying. I don't stereotype myself.
And Nicholas Glenn says, can I get a no, you can't from RFR? He wants you, and you don't watch sports, you said, Jason, but he's trying to make me
such a nerd.
He's trying to make me. Yeah, he's trying to make me say these dirty words of our rival in this school in West Georgia. I'm an
okay.
Alabama fan, and so this other team, he's always trying to pay super chats to force me to say it. And as much as I love Nicholas and I appreciate Nicholas, I'm not saying it. So Bagel Goose says, I'm not as good as Cecil. Let's be real. Stop super chatting yourself, Cecil. Yeah, Yakowski, I think, or Yakowski for Anna for risking her sanity. Oh, Anna, you got a super chat for risking your sanity. So, and let's see. All right, I'm checking to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Jeremy,
Jason,
I like that you have your own whack pack with guys like Cecil and some of these characters.
Cecil is love, Cecil is life. There's no doubt about it. Jason Wells, Anna, I only cry when dogs and Solo die. Fanboy, I think Kathleen Kennedy may have manipulated Disney into making it into her own product, and then after TLJ, I don't think they're sure anymore. I mean, there's a lot of reports out there about what could have potentially happened. I mean, we've all seen the interview with George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy when the purchase happened. We've all seen where she sat there and said, you know, we're going to honor these characters. We're going to, you know, push forward the universe, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in her head. I really don't. I tried to, you know, I had nothing but, you know, I had no reason to not support Kathleen Kennedy when the purchase happened. I saw George Lucas sitting there giving her, you know, his company basically and allowing her to run it. And so she started out on a good foot with me. And, you know, eventually, like I've said it many times. You guys were at Celebration last year, right, Jason?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget this. I'm not going to tell you the person's name, but I did have a contact at Lucasfilm. Since the YouTube channel's taken off, they no longer have any contact with me, but we'll talk about that after the show. But I'm just not trying to put anybody on blast. But anyway, I got, you know, I was just there as a you know, paying customer. And I wasn't going to sit in line for all these panels and stuff, but I got hooked up into, you know, a couple of the panels, and I got into the Battlefront panel. And I'll never forget, before the Battlefront 2 panel started, somebody got up on stage and they were like, hey, how many girl gamers do we have in the house? And there was like maybe 5 girls. Were like, woo, you know, and it's like, why are they asking a gender specific question? Like, why didn't you just say how many gamers are in the house? And that really rubbed me the wrong way. And again, this is back when I was all in on Star Wars, you know, that really rubbed me the wrong way when I heard that.
It's just total pandering. It's just it's total pandering, and it makes no sense at all. You got to assume that the people are there in that room because, you know, they're geeks on some level. They're Star Wars fans, obviously, and they're at a Battlefront panel. So I'm guessing they're all interested in games. So it's not really some mystery. Right. And that really stuck out to me. And then obviously we got the Iden reveal, which I actually liked Iden. I actually liked Iden in Battlefront 2. The story did kind of sucked, but I liked the character. Okay, real quick. One force, one balance. Does anyone think that Lucasfilm's workers on social media attacking fans because a lot of them are gone and some major changes are coming that they do not like, so they are taking it out on the fans? So let me reread that one more time. So does anyone think that Lucasfilm's workers on social media attacking the fans? I'm not sure exactly what he's trying to say, though. I mean, basically, does anyone think that Lucasfilm's workers on social media attacking fans because a lot of them are gone and some major changes are coming that they do not like, so they are taking it out on the fans? I honestly, just the lack of attention to detail at Lucasfilm and their management of their employees is shocking to me. It's very shocking. And maybe Jason can speak closer to this than I can because you've been involved with them for so long, but it just blows my mind. It blows my mind that there seems to be no leadership. It does seem awfully rudderless. You know, I go back to the grand old days when you had a guy like Steve Sansweet, who was sort of he was the head of fan relations. I always thought it was so great of Lucasfilm. They were the only company that I was aware of that actually had a position called head of fan relations. And, you know, and Steve would tour the country going from convention to convention doing these panels. And they were always, you know, hard panels to get into because he was going to do some little reveal. And the guy just had such an infectious spirit and, again, a love and a respect for Star Wars and Star Wars fans because he was one. You know, Steve Sansweet, you know, gave up a career as a writer for the Wall Street Journal to be a Star Wars journalist, someone to write books about Star Wars and be, the premier Star Wars collector. And so I really long for those days when that was who we as fans could look up to. And since Steve left, it's been very rudderless. And I don't think Kathleen Kennedy's doing anything to help. I think social media has overly complicated things. But they don't really, in my judgment, have any real strategy in terms of community relations or fan relations. And I don't think you can just, leave it up Wild West style when you have a fandom as large as Star Wars. You need somebody there to sort of look to and, be some sort of focal point for fandom.
Yeah, and I know I said we're going to get out of here, and we keep getting questions, so I apologize, guys. So Jason Bourne has a really interesting question I want Anna to speak on. Men are being pushed out of geekdom for these fake geek girls. What do you think about that one, Anna?
I actually agree with that one. I have seen so many people send me links to like, oh, go watch this girl, go watch this girl. And I watch it. And within the first couple minutes, I'm like, this girl doesn't really know much about Star Wars. She's just using the right terminology. And then as I keep going, I'm like, okay, well, this girl's getting all this love. But then I look at other channels with, guys that are actually, making sense, talking about Star Wars, which is actually pretty common. And no one's giving them attention on it. But it's like, hey, he's saying the things that, she's trying to say, but he's actually doing it the right way. And he actually knows what he's talking about, where she's just kind of faking it. And I've actually come across that a lot in life. Girls will find out, hey, guys like Star Wars. Let me like Star Wars too. It's a thing now. It's trendy. And I hate it. It drives me crazy.
Well said. Well said. Let's see. Revan Blade says, it's okay, Anna. I cry at the Lucasfilm logo.
I feel ya. When that comes up on the big screen, it gets you in the feels.
Anna, can I ask Anna a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I get accused of minimizing or delegitimizing this idea that female fans are harassed and there's a history of harassment. Anna, can you speak to that at all? Did you ever feel, as a Star Wars fan, I don't know if you'd been to Star Wars celebrations in the past, but anytime you were around a group of Star Wars fans, did you ever feel that you weren't appreciated, that your opinion wasn't needed or welcomed because you were a girl?
Yes. It always starts off at first, and I hated this, and this is actually a really big reason why I'd rather go to Star Trek conventions than Star Wars conventions, is because when I would meet people that were into Star Wars, immediately, like when I was in high school, there was guys and they'd be talking about Star Wars, and of course I want to chime in because I love Star Wars. Immediately it was a pop quiz from every single person. Do you know this, 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 and this? And I'm like, yes, I know all of that. And after 20 minutes of them asking me questions and me having to answer to prove my knowledge just because I'm a girl, I was like, you know what? I don't even want to talk to you guys anymore. But then I would throw one down and be like, hey, yeah, who's Anakin's father? Tell me if any of you guys know the answer to that question. And of course they didn't. And I'd have to explain to them the whole Darth Plagueis theory, and because I 100% believe in that theory. And it's just been that way. And then that was different. And then now that I'm older, it's a different type of judgment, which it's sucky, but at the same time, it's just something you got to deal with. But so, yeah, it is.
Well, I appreciate that perspective, because I think that when I would be presented with this, my mind would flash to Star Wars, celebrations, meeting a lot of listeners of the podcast, and in those environments, I just never saw evidence of girl. I mean, I saw plenty of girls, plenty of wives, girlfriends, whatever, but I never saw any evidence of this type of antagonistic harassment. But maybe I was just not looking in the right place. I wasn't looking in the halls of schools. I wasn't looking at people's everyday interactions. when I would hear people say, well, Star Wars is not, was not a welcome place for female fans, I was thinking again of things like Celebration, where I just I never saw it. But you've kind of opened my eyes a little bit to where pockets of this could be happening. And it could be happening, in the schoolyard or, in the cafeteria.
Bagel Goose continues to super chat and say Cecil over at Geeks and Gamers. Sorry. So Greg Reeves, Cecil thanks Cecil so very much for the kind support. Now you're using Mike Zero's lines again to highlight Cecil. This is beautiful. Fanboy, I don't think Bob trusted Kathleen Kennedy after she shit her bed. Yeah, I mean, we all. I think a lot of. Yeah.
Is he referring to the Alex Beckard video?
No, there was a Reddit post that I guess has been taken down now, but there was a Reddit post about 2 weeks ago, quote unquote, a former employee of Lucasfilm put up, and then the Reddit moderators, I guess, they vetted the person, and they had said like they were skeptical at first, but then they heard more information that made them feel that story was 50-50, and the person was talking about how Bob Iger really doesn't like Rian Johnson, and he's really unhappy with Kathleen Kennedy. But Kathleen Kennedy, he kept, I guess, trying to convince Kathleen Kennedy that a lot of the direction she was moving in was not going to work. And she's so wrapped up in Rian Johnson's vision that Bob was like, basically, I'm just going to let you guys run with it so I can show you how bad this is going to fail. And he's a big fan of JJ Abrams. The entire Reddit post sounded like JJ Abrams paid somebody to talk about how great JJ Abrams is. That's what it sounded like. But then it got taken down, I guess. Maybe, I don't know if you guys can tell me more, but from what I heard, it got taken down. But I did a video covering it. So it was pretty interesting, though, for sure. So
yeah, I saw your video covering it. I'm not a Reddit user.
I'm not either. Somebody sent it to me. So
I'm scared of what I might see there.
I think we're about to lose him again.
Hey.
I'm gonna give it a minute. We're losing you again, Jason.
Oh no! It
there
can't be.
We got you.
All
we
right.
got you. Jason Wells says, "Please God, don't let Anna call me out." That's Jason Wells, Anna.
What did he say now?
I don't know. I think Jason Wells likes to troll a lot. He does it to me all the time. He misspells words intentionally just so I can trip up on them, and then they can tell everybody I can't spell. So anyway, all right. So we're at a good point to wrap this up. So again, Jason, if there's anything you want to, send us off.
Let Jason ask us the questions that he always asks.
Okay. Oh, you talking?
Oh, you want to do the Yoda questionnaire?
Yes, I've been waiting.
All right. Oh, this is great. All right. I have no notes in front of me, so I just have to wing it. Hopefully I'm not cutting out. Can you hear me?
Got
yes.
You.
All right, great. Okay. All right. We're going to do this one at a time. All right. Jeremy, who is your favorite Star Wars character?
Ahsoka.
Anna, who is your favorite Star Wars character?
Darth Vader.
All right, Jeremy, who is your least Star Wars favorite character?
Oh man, Rose Tico.
Anna, your least.
Kylo Ren.
Oh, that's a first. Jeremy, what moment in Star Wars always makes you smile?
The ceremony scene at the end of A New Hope.
Anna, what Star Wars scene makes you smile?
When Han Solo says, "I know."
Oh, that's a good one. That's a real good one. All right, Jeremy, what scene always makes you sad?
The end of season 5 of the Clone Wars.
Ooh, that's a good one. Anna, what always makes you sad?
When Luke takes off Vader's mask and he gets to see his son with his own eyes for the first time.
That's mine too, by the way. All-time favorite Star Wars moment. I shouldn't editorialize. That's not the role when you're doing the questionnaire. Jeremy, let's say that George Lucas decided he was going to come back and he was going to direct another Star Wars movie. He decided to cast you in it. You're there on the set. What would you like to hear him say to you when he yells "cut" on your last scene?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Well, Jeremy, I hope you no, I can't do the Lucas. I can't do the Lucas voice. Do the Lucas voice. Is this like in reality or in like fantasy world? Because like, I mean, I would love for George Lucas to thank me for calling out all of the nonsense that Kathleen Kennedy did to his universe. But if we're talking about, I'm starring in this movie?
Yeah, you've got a part in it. You know,
Okay.
Doesn't matter how big or how small.
I would love for him to say, you did better with my terrible directing skills than Hayden did.
Oh, poor Hayden.
Hey, I love the prequels, but episode 2 is cringe. Okay, so
what have I done? All right, Anna. How about you? What would you like the maker to say to you if you were in a Star Wars movie and he was yelling "Cut" on your last scene?
You did it. Marry me.
That's great. You guys did awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job.
That was awesome. So good call, Anna. So real quick, smash the like button, like the smash button, lick the like button, lick the butter in the fridge, whatever it is. Cecil sent Bagel Goose sent another super chat that said Cecil over Mario Kart with a C. Now you've crossed the line, Cecil. You've crossed the line. Unacceptable behavior on every level. And Obi-Wan 27883, Jeremy, stop mansplaining. Anna is right. Alex Becker did do a Kathleen Kennedy shitting the bed video. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to mansplain. So I just ruined the whole narrative. Now it's Geeks and Gamers and Rebel Force Radio have teamed up to mansplain a female. Or a woman or a lady. I'm not sure.
I think you just wrote the next headline on Making Star Wars.
I'm a middle-aged white man, baby.
Cecil says I'm not Bagel Goose. This is so funny. And then Bagel Goose says, yeah, he's not.
How much does it cost Cecil to be in these chats? I mean, he's got to be running both of these accounts, and
this is so
$2
great.
a pop or whatever it is.
To the chat, is Bagel Goose Cecil yes or no? Is Bagel Goose Cecil yes or no? Want to see what the chat says. Got to give it a minute to catch up. So everybody says yes. Yes. Yep, there's a bunch of yeses. Bagel Goose's EVS. Oh, there it is. I would say that's probably like an 85% that it's a yes. So. All right. So anyway, so a couple of reminders really quick. Star Wars Philosophy says one more super chat for the word female. A couple of reminders. I'm going to have Odin's movie blog on tomorrow night at 6 p.m. He actually got a response from John Kasdan on Twitter. So that's going to happen tomorrow at 6. And then Friday, we have the TFA rewatch party. I might title that Laying the Force Awakens to Rest. I might title it that. So we'll see. Anna will be joining us. Jason, again, it's been a pleasure to have you. I really appreciate it. It's been so much fun. Been a big fan of you guys for a long time. So it's just awesome to have you here. And thank you to everybody that supported the live stream tonight. We stayed consistently over 600 viewers, and that's with World Class and Ethan both live streaming. So I thought we held very well. Anna, thank you for joining as always.
It was a pleasure.
And yeah, so for Jason, for Anna, you guys have a great night, and we will talk to you later.